controversial, but I think that the like Thunderstruck. Usually, I'm kind of sick of ADHD, nah, ACDC
God, I
music.
hate whatever they're called, ACDC. I hate them.
ABCD. Yeah, I'm sick of that in like movies, but I honestly thought Thunderstruck was a good choice for
It
that
fit,
trailer.
yeah, no, it did fit the trailer.
Yes.
And I will say, I like the advertising they do for the Despicable Me movies, despite like whatchamacallit, despite the cringe that surrounds like the franchise. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they do good advertising.
I very much agree.
Like I saw like a commercial when I was at Planet Fitness, and they had like the minions and like the family were like inside some car. I think it was a Subaru or like a Hyundai van or something. I don't know, but it
a,
was like just funny to see them like edit it in there.
Toyota Grand Caravan. Or
Yeah, something like that. I don't even know what it was.
That's funny. All right, well, I'm going to officially lead in the Telecast episode 7. Today we are joined with Jacob Sopko. Do you have anything to say to introduce yourself?
Hello to the Luke Wilson TV telecast.
Yeah, surprisingly, we've kind of hobbled our way across the number 7 marker. We were supposed to be joined by Nick from the first kind of movie summary thing that we did before, but he was unable to join us. But maybe later this summer, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, as you can see, we're back in Minecraft. Here, wait, where are you at?
I'm just running around trying to make a hoe because I'm like generating like the most giant wheat field over here.
But Benson, the hose. Oh yeah, bubble baths.
Bubble bass.
We got bubble baths.
Krabby Patty burger.
I'm running the Stickman skin. Yeah, this is a crazy. How many people do we even have in this realm?
I think it's at capacity. I think it's 8.
You can only have 8?
I don't know if Joe joined, but well, for like the basic realm, I think it's 8.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually pretty cheap when you like split it up.
Yeah, it's like $1 per person.
Yeah, become another person. Oh, see, I was supposed to send you the topics, but there's only 2 major things I wanted to hit on. So, first of all, as we just mentioned, we're going to be talking about the movies of this summer and of like recent times. So, let's see. We got Inside Out 2 is obviously the big one. But then we also got Garfield on the ticket for today. Invincible season 2. That's a unexpected one to include. And then the Bikeriders. You didn't see that one, did you?
That was the one with like Austin Butler and someone else, right?
Yeah.
I forget. Yeah, I didn't see that one yet.
Okay, so I can briefly talk about that. And then, did you see The Beekeeper at all?
No, I don't think I saw that one either.
Okay, that was one. I think Anthony saw that. That was one that was like a little bit out there because it was like a small. It was one of those like dad movies where it's like made to, it's just like classic action hero. Like John Wick kicks some ass.
Yeah, I saw some ads for it, and it just kind of looked like a bunch of like back-to-back action, and it's like explosions everywhere, just like guns and
some like
guns
one-liners.
ablazing. Yeah, quippy one-liners. Like,
yeah,
all that stuff.
It's like came here. Well, it's like that whole I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum thing.
Yeah, no, literally the whole premise of like they live besides for the actual like whatchamacallit, societal like
yeah
commentary. It's like all the rest of that movie.
Yeah, no, it's just protagonist says something, audience responds with hell yeah. Which I guess kind of speaks to the message of the movie, doesn't it? Like, aren't people supposed to have their own opinions and not just respond to cheap action?
Yeah. No, it is very ironic, but I mean, that's what the movie does.
So, when did you see They Live? Did you just watch that recently for like the first time?
I want to say it was probably like the middle of May or so it wasn't that long ago. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting movie. Like, I think like it's really cheesy, but like it's cheesy in like a good way. Like, it definitely has that like cult classic like feel to it.
Yeah.
Like, I got the same feeling watching it that I kind of do when I watch like Napoleon Dynamite. Like it's just that kind of like cheesy, like I don't know, like very like memorable like movie. Like even
Yeah.
though not that many great scenes happen in it, it just has like good moments that you just kind of like savor in a way.
Yeah, and it's like I mean, this is kind of a given, but I think it's really important, especially in like the movie climate nowadays, is like, the movie was made with care and intent, like there was clearly somebody who cared about this movie being made, it wasn't just like a, you know, making shareholders happy type of thing.
Yeah, it was someone's passion project for sure.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of weird too that I found out that the guy who's like the main actor is like a WWE wrestler because
Oh
like
yeah.
after like watching it that made so much sense. Like his dialogue is so like almost like stadium like esque. Like
Yeah.
I could see him talking in front of an audience and saying those kind of things.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I don't know if this movie was a good example of this exact thing, but it's like, these guys do acting as like a side thing or like a PR thing. It's like make me look awesome on camera. I feel
Yeah,
like
it's all to build that kind of like character like Dwayne the Rock Johnson kind of did.
Exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say he's like the prime example because it's like when The Rock runs out of money, like Moana comes out with something new. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And speaking of that, I really don't understand why they're making a second movie. Like, just leave the first one where it was. It was already really good.
Well, you see, there's this thing called money.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, it's like, I don't know. Again, it's like a lot of people really care about Moana, and as far as like Disney movies go, like that one, I think a lot of people saw a live action coming for that at some point, and a lot of people saw a sequel coming, and it's like, I guess the better question is why don't they like space it out more? Give it more room to breathe.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
Because like Moana has the potential to be a franchise they could run for like decades. Like our kids could be seeing like Moana 3, but it's like, nah, get it all out now. It's like, why?
Yeah. And I don't know if it'll be like, sorry,
No,
I don't know if it'll be like a direct to DVD kind of thing or like if it'll be like just like another movie they release in theaters, but like Moana 3 where it's like somehow like her kids or like grandkids or something, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like it's so predictable.
Well, and that's like, that's one thing is, I feel like it can be hard or intimidating to like do that sort of generational thing, but it's because it's been done wrong so many times.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I'm gonna give my daily JoJo shill, because I'm getting paid to promote that series. No, I'm actually not, but you'd think I would. That you think I am, the way I talk about it. But that series does the whole family thing. Like each season is a new protagonist, and you'd think like, oh my gosh, what a terrible idea. But no, it's like they do it well. It's just proof that you can do it well. You can make the protagonist of one season a background character of another season. You just have to do it, intelligently.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Moana's like kids, like having her be like a grandma, and like having her like, nephew be like a villain, and her like granddaughter be a hero or something. That could be something cool.
And she'd have like crazy grandma lore to tell all of the grandkids, so
Yeah,
it'd be kind of cool to like kick off the next generation of Moana characters, I guess.
yeah, or like I could just imagine they open up, the movie with like, I don't know, like a retelling of the story, and it's like, yeah, Moana's young and back in action, but it's like, nah, it's the grandma Moana retelling the story.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's just like, again, as long as it's done with care and passion, then it will turn out good. That's the thing. If it's good, then it's good. You can't really fake goodness. I mean, you can get a bunch of kids to laugh at slapstick comedy, but there are people know the difference between good and bad, even if they can't exactly point out why it's good.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of slapstick comedy, do you want to talk about Garfield?
Yeah, yeah. Let's get into the movie of the year so far, obviously, but
Yeah, it's honestly, I walked out of the theater like I enjoyed the movie. Thought it was good. I thought the father-son thing with Garfield and his dad was done like well enough. It wasn't I feel like they could have done a lot worse of a job with that. You
I
know,
kind of. Oh, sorry.
oh no, you're
You can
good.
finish your thought.
I was just gonna say, you know, it was kind of cheesy where it's like you know, let me sit here and listen, and it's like, you know, he didn't actually care about me, and then of course the characters are like explaining how he did actually care about him, blah blah blah. But I thought like you know, Garfield's a house cat. He needs to be like broken into, you know. I thought that was all right. All right, I'll shut up now.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, like, leaving the theater, that movie kind of left me like mixed feelings. Like, I didn't really know what I thought of it, to be honest. But like, hearing that, like, you know, the take about like the father son thing, I kind of like overlooked that in a way because it's not something like I personally like. I don't know. I feel like I didn't take away more from that because it's like something I can't relate to. But I feel like there probably are kids out there who saw that movie and they're like, oh, I could relate to this more, and then, you know, they kind of enjoyed the movie more, took more out of it. But like, I know personally, like, I didn't really like get that much out of it from that aspect or from like the comedy of it. Like, I thought the comedy kind of was like a little bit like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a little. Well, I don't
Mixed
know.
Bag.
Was it Sony or it was Sony because of the headphones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was like, you know, the animation jokes, you know, like the typical, like, you know, Garfield getting smacked back and forth in the little kids, you know, in the theater laughing. It's like, yeah, those jokes are for the kids.
Yeah.
You know, so they're kind of easy. I don't know if they're necessary because you don't really need them to make a movie funny, but you know, yeah, I thought it was okay. It was generally inoffensive. The pop culture references, though, were just awful.
Yeah, oh my God, the product placement, like we were saying with the headphones, like, it just like is so obvious. Like they didn't even try to like hide it.
Yeah,
So shamelessly just plugging like, oh, here's Uber Eats or whatever. I forget what they used. I think it was like DoorDash or Uber Eats or something.
yeah, or something like that.
Yeah,
That
or
was. I don't know, I thought the drones got a pass because it came back, you know.
yeah,
But
it came back and actually became part of the story plot. But then I think it was like Olive Garden or something. I forget.
oh,
There
well,
was some other like restaurant or something was like shamelessly plugged into it.
well, it was Olive Garden, and I'll tell you what. I don't know if you knew this. You probably know about this, but it might have slipped out of your mind just because I don't know. I'll just say what I'm going to say.
Mhm.
So, Peanut Butter Gamer, he did a video about Garfield's Olive Garden menu, right? So there's your explanation for why, you know, first of all, why I remembered that it was Olive Garden, and second of all, why it was Olive Garden in the first place, because it was all, you know, it was all this big promotion.
Oh, so they had like something going on at the real Olive Garden for like the kids menu or something.
Yeah, so, you know, apparently they've been doing this with kids movies now. I know they did a Sonic the Hedgehog one with IHOP. Now I don't know if this tied into the movie, but
Yeah.
at the very least the Garfield one did, and they had like a Garfield special thing where it's like, you know, order Garfield's lasagna, you know,
Okay.
which is like, I don't know. Again, if you do it right, it's cool, but if you do it wrong and like half-assed, then it's just awful. And you know, it's the whole capitalism is ruining this country, you know, whatever.
Yeah. And that like whole like Olive Garden thing, now that I remember it, like I can kind of like recall like Olive Garden doing that before because like my one childhood friend like had like cups from Olive Garden and they had like movie characters on them or whatever from like old movies. And they kind of just use those as like, you know, they're like quote unquote kids cups at home. So
Yeah.
like, and that was all from Olive Garden. So I do remember them kind of like plugging certain things.
Yeah.
So it is
uh,
interesting that they're like bringing it back.
I remember now. I don't know if this is a relic of the past or what, or if Olive Garden ever did this, but I know Perkins did it, where they would have characters like in costume, right?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. I think like the Backyardigans were there one time,
Yep,
something like that.
dude. We used to call him Pazar Pablo because because at Pizza Hut, I remember at the sit down Pizza Hut in Emmaus on Chestnut Street,
Yeah.
there was Pablo, and I think Andy or somebody, for the audience, Andy's one of my brothers. called him Bizarre Pablo, and then we just started calling him Pazar Pablo.
Yeah, I remember that too, like characters being there, because they would always give out those like tickets at school. If you read enough books, you would get like the free personal pizza or something like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
they would have like the character family nights there, which that's like wow, I completely forgot about that until we started talking about it.
Yeah, and again, I swear Perkins did it. I know the Backyardigans were there. I can't remember anyone else off the top of my head, but I know there were some. Like, it wasn't like Teletubbies or Thomas. It wasn't like SpongeBob, I don't think. I don't think it was any Disney characters either.
Yeah, it definitely had to be someone from like PBS Kids or
Like PJ
maybe
Masks.
yeah, maybe like Nickelodeon. I don't even remember at this point. I think SpongeBob might have been somewhere. I just remember like seeing like SpongeBob and Patrick like promotions and they were like in their costumes or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely like, it would be great for a video essay where it's like, I went to every single, you know, childhood costume, blah blah blah, whatever.
Yeah.
But again, it's because it's such a weird niche thing that like I feel like it was like one of the universal experiences that like people in our generation went through.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what do you even call that? Like restaurant mascot appearances, I guess.
Yeah, it's like it's a weird form of like I don't even know what kind of marketing to call that. Like it's like kind of like that like face to face like marketing because there is a person inside of there, but like
That's creepy.
yeah, it's like a weird like you could also call it like a cross branding in a way because I'm sure that the like restaurants had to get the licensing to use the characters, so
Yeah.
kind of is like a cross brand in that sense too.
Well, that's why I'm thinking it was like more PBS characters because I'm sure the license, like, you think about like Nintendo, how protective they are of their IPs. Disney is not as bad with that, but they still are. They're protective, about their characters and how they appear.
Yeah.
Oh, get out of here, skeleton. Yeah, I don't know. And PBS, they don't care. They just they just want publicity.
Yeah.
Because they're getting like government funding or whatever. Are they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they get like most of their funding from the government, but then also from like viewers, as they always say, like, oh, thank you from viewers like you, thank you.
Funding for Schaefer Illis is provided by
Yeah.
Squarespace.
And like going back to like the characters, I think that like Sega, like Sonic would be kind of like used a lot because like Sega was cheaper than like, trying to get Nintendo's characters. So there's always like really crude like Sonic costumes out there or like sort of Sonic like themed things because, it was cheaper than Nintendo.
I
And it
think
was like the next best thing.
I swear you were right on with that because for whatever reason I can envision Sonic like being at like Perkins or something.
And he's like really like skinny, right? Like it's not like a good costume. It's like a really bad costume.
It's literally just like a blue human like torso, arms and legs and then like a big Sonic mascot head.
Yeah, like I'm pretty much picturing like Sporticus from Lazy Town
Yeah.
with like just like a big obnoxious head. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's pretty much what his costume was, like tights and then like the big head, like and that was it.
I feel like that's right on because like that's weird and that's weird that you say that because I never put that together. I always like this sounds kind of bad, but I always saw Sonic as like a little bit cheaper than Mario,
Yeah, no, he always is kind of like seen as like the great value Mario in a way. Like
Yeah, yeah.
and it even like in a way like it sounds bad, but like someone who's a Sonic kid versus like a Mario kid, you kind of see that as like a class thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's it's hard to admit that, but I swear I've thought that before, like on multiple occasions.
but it's also strange because like Sonic, like the people who are like really big fans of Sonic like are super into him. Like
Yeah.
everything that they do is like related to him. And there are definitely people who are like that for Mario. And like I know that like it kind of like can build that sort of obsession, but it's not nearly to the same effect as like Sonic.
Yeah, I definitely agree. like it's more like of the obsessive type of kids, you know, or like this, like I don't know. I mean, it's weird to say it too because it definitely was dependent on like the time you grew up with Sonic. Like I think of like Sammy Classic Sonic fan and like Chad Tronic.
Yeah.
Like they are a very distinct type of YouTuber that's like not for everybody, you know.
Yeah. Sort of spectrumy in a way, like
yeah, a little even yeah. It's again,
it's because
it's like weird to
like,
admit, but like that's it's definitely apparent, and it's interesting to hear that you also drew those same conclusions, you know.
and I think that part of it is because the reason that you can become so obsessive over Sonic is because they did so much more with it than Mario.
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
Sonic had comics, they had multiple TV shows that were like, you know, for almost every single like generation of Sonic has had like its own TV show. There's like Boom, there's like the underground one, they had the original one.
Yeah.
There's a new one now, I think on Netflix called like Sonic Prime or something. But there's always been Sonic stuff.
Yeah,
and
I feel like
oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I keep cutting in.
Oh, you're good.
It's a bad habit of mine, but I was just gonna say, for as many mistakes as they made, they took so many risks that, like, you know, they ultimately made themselves distinct from Mario, you know.
Mm-hmm. I know Chad Tronic had like a few videos of like all the different promotions that Sonic was kind of like slammed into. Like he was in all those like Pakistan McDonald's commercials, or like he kind of got like pushed into like random like soup commercials like in the 90s. Like Sega really like hammered the marketing on like, you know, Sonic into all sort of aspects of life so that he would just kind of become like an icon and be able to compete with Mario.
Yeah.
And honestly, this might be a hot take, but I think that Sonic, like as a character, might have been bigger like back in that early stage of gaming, because like Mario wasn't really like, he wasn't pushed as a character that much. Like they kind of like kept him as Jumpman and like Donkey Kong, and then in the first couple games, like, you know, he's there, but there wasn't like a lot like developing about his character, and like Sonic kind of had like development.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like, especially now, with Nintendo kind of competing with Disney, like, I feel like they're going for a more safe, like, you know, like Mickey Mouse, you know, he can be anything you want him to be, you know, versus, like, you know, Donald Duck, who's, like, kind of an asshole, or, like, Goofy, who's, like, you know, kind of dopey and stupid, you know. I feel like Mario is much the same way, where he takes on all these different things, you know. He's kind of like the everyman, and then I don't know, they're trying to do like a similar thing with Link, I feel, you know. And like, you know, Kirby, you know, Kirby's like, he's tough, you know, that's like his thing. Or like, you know, Samus is like tough, I guess. You know, who else? Pikachu is...
They kind of started pushing a little bit more on the Pikmin, but not like super heavy, but like they kind of like tried to promote them more as like, oh, look at these like ditzy little creatures and they have different abilities and all that, and like, here, walk around and plant flowers and the Pikmin will come to life and all that. Like they tried to push Pikmin a little bit harder with that mobile game, but I don't really know if it like has taken off.
Yeah,
I know locally a few people still play it, but it's not like nearly as big as Pokemon Go is or was.
that's the thing, is that I feel like Pikmin Bloom took off because there was a dip in Pokemon Go, and then once Pokemon Go came back, then Pikmin kind of slacked, you know, kind of started to lose people.
Yeah. And there's just not that much you can do with it. Like with Pokemon, there's over like 1,000 of them now. You could catch so many different things and it's still like interesting. Pikmin, there's like what, 10 types of them, and then the only thing that's different about the ones is like they have like costumes or something. And that's like not enough to keep people playing.
Yeah, and it's also like, you know, Pokemon is just, it is, it's, you know, I always say this, like, you know, but it is important to remember, I guess, is like, you know, Pokemon is the single most profitable franchise in the world. If you took Winnie the Pooh and Mickey Mouse and combined their total, like, gross, you know, sales, or I'm pretty sure, or maybe it's their value, it, you know, that matches Pokemon. Like, Pokemon is leagues ahead of the competition just because of, you know, you got the card games and you got the video games, and the gaming industry too brings in way more money than the film industry does. and they got card games and video games, and they got TV shows, and Pikachu. Like everybody knows Pikachu. It's
And theme parks now, which is like insane. Like it's just getting like so huge.
yeah. It's just it's a money machine, and Nintendo, kind of makes it appear as though they don't own it. It is like a separate company, but I'm pretty sure that they own like the majority of shares, but it's still like a separate company. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely. I feel like Pokemon is something like you were kind of either born into a Pokemon like family, I guess, or like you just weren't into them. Because like there's so many people that I knew growing up that like they've stuck with Pokemon and it's been like their thing for forever. I mean, I know personally like I kind of grew up like at first collecting the cards because my like one neighbor introduced me to them, and then went from there. Like I played the cards, then I watched the show, then I got like the first game that like I played, and just kind of grew from there. Now I have like tons of collectibles, and I'm just so invested in like the franchise.
Yeah, I've definitely been like back and forth with it. I know growing up I always thought Ben, my middle brother, was the one who was the most into Pokemon because he had the games, all the games, the old ones, the new ones. He collected the cards and stuff, whatever. But when I think back on it, really, all three of us got, we had, what was it, Sapphire, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Each of us had one. Then we got Soul Silver and Heart Gold. Each of us got a copy of a different one.
Such a good game.
Ah, dude, yeah, Soul Silver was amazing.
It's so good.
And then we got Black and White, and then after that I stopped playing the games, but Ben kept playing them. And then through all that too, like we did all the events, like the GameStop events to get the shinies. We we had the Pokewalkers, we bought the cards, we got the McDonald's toys, and then neither of my brothers still do the cards, but I do. All three of us play Pokemon Go. Andy's really into it, and then Ben still plays the games. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely true, like that you say a Pokemon family, because it's like I think about like all the anime type of stuff, like Bakugan and Beyblade and Pokemon, and it's like I don't know. You kind of have to be born into it a little bit.
Yeah, and Pokemon's been that one that's like kind of like it's made it it's survived. It's kind of like at the top of the tower. No one can knock it off. Like.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely can never see like a franchise, another monster catcher franchise ever like coming anywhere close to Pokemon.
No, it's simply too iconic. Pikachu is too big of a character. You could never dethrone that guy.
Yeah, he's like the Kim Jong-un of like the gaming industry.
Yeah, and it's like even with the series, like kind of losing steam. People kind of being critical of the games. It's still was able to come back, experiment. The cards are constantly fluctuating. You got people like Logan Paul promoting it. I don't know. And you got the movies too. You got the theme parks and stuff. I don't know if there's any Pokemon theme parks, but there's gonna be.
And it's like it's something that like Pokemon, like I always kind of thought like, oh, I'm kind of like dorky for liking it, but then when Pokemon Go came out and I realized how many other people grew up playing Pokemon and like enjoyed it, I was like, maybe it's not as like dorky as I think it is. Like it's pretty normal. Like there's a lot of people who were into it. Like it wasn't just me.
Yeah, definitely. And that was, again, that was like kind of a turning point for me too, where I was like, oh, I was afraid that people would, judge me for liking Nintendo games and stuff. But it's like, nah, dude, everybody played Pokemon Go. Even at college, like the most random people, I'd like,
Yeah, no, it would be the most like unexpected people playing that game.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, like one of my neighbors, we were like out at the bar or whatever. And she was like, oh, you play Pokemon Go? And I was like, you play Pokemon Go? And she's like, yeah, dude. And I was like, okay, and then I don't know. It's just, it is very true, and I think it's also like a sibling thing. I feel like if you have like an older brother or like a younger brother, it spreads.
Yeah, because they always needed someone to be able to like trade within the games and get the different exclusives and all that, like
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of mutually benefited like the brothers or siblings or anyone who's playing. So
Yeah. No, that's one thing where it's like I feel like you know, older brother to younger sibling or older sister to younger brother. That is like Pokemon like breeding grounds.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it is interesting. I wonder if you like took a survey, tried to see that, like where it spreads from person to person.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's also too like there always has to be some sort of like outside influence like that either got the older sibling or like the the one that's into it like into the game.
Yeah.
Like there's someone that comes along and gives you like a card like they give you like I don't know like a Pidgey card and you think it's like the coolest thing ever because you don't even know what a Pidgey is yet. But then like later down the line you find out okay like, this guy's kind of lame but like look now I have a Charizard and this thing's like sick like
Yeah.
it's just all about kind of like discovering more and more.
I hit that because when I was a kid, like I had Pokemon cards, but it was always like the secondhand ones from my brothers, and I thought they were so cool, but I didn't even have a single holographic. Those cards weren't even worth anything at all. And now I'm like coming back to it, and I'm like, dang, like I'm pulling like a $4 card out of a pack, and I'm like, I don't know. Again, yeah, I don't know. That's honestly the only thing I gamble with is Pokemon cards.
And it's like it's kind of like interesting too because like you said like I didn't really think of like anything with rarity like growing up like I kind of just collected the ones that I liked but then that kind of like adds like a whole new aspect when you're older like oh wow this one's like way harder to find than this one and I want to collect that one.
Yeah.
And as a kid you're just like all right well I like the look of this one so I'm gonna collect this one but then there's like a whole nother aspect and like the more you mature like the more you kind of like get into more than just like how they look and all that.
Yeah, definitely. And well, I mean, trading cards are still really big too. I know Moist Critical is doing like Magic the Gathering card openings and stuff now, which is like its own whole thing. I don't know if people actually buy Magic cards for the game aspect or what, but people still buy Pokemon cards not for the game. I don't think I've ever heard of somebody playing the Pokemon trading card game other than Steel, one of my old friends from school.
Yeah, and there's another like new thing that's been going on that's kind of like odd to me because I feel like it kind of just takes away from the whole point of opening a pack, but people do these like live streams where they kind of just open the packs like you buy a pack or like quote unquote sponsor one, and then you get what's inside of it but like they open it as content on their live stream so you're kind of like giving them content in return for like getting a pack for like a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. No, ever since I've been single, I've seen like girls on like TikTok opening cards.
Yeah.
They've been advertised to me because they know that I'm like, what is it like?
They know you're single now.
What's the quote? It's like, was it Blade Runner? Or what was it? Where the woman on the screen is like, hey, are you lonely?
Blade Runner 2049 or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, but I mean, you know what, man? I'm not ashamed to say, if a girl is pretty and opening Pokemon cards, I might stop in and give her a view, help her out in the algorithm, because we're all just out here trying to make money. All right, let's move on to the next. What do we got on here still? Invincible Season 2. We can save Inside Out for a little bit later, I guess. But yeah, what you watched? Did you watch Invincible Season 2?
Yeah, so I kind of like saw parts of it, but then didn't really watch all of it. But I've read the comics, so I know pretty much everything that happens. But I did see like the finale of season 2. I saw like a majority of the episodes. I kind of like, I wasn't 100% focused on it, but it was like on when I was in the room because my roommates were watching it at college, so
yeah,
I pretty much saw it, but I didn't like focus on it. So I could definitely talk about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I can start out with the most obvious thing. Now, I haven't seen anybody review it before, review Invincible Season 2, because I actually just finished watching the whole series, start to finish. Season 2, I definitely don't think it was as good as Season 1, and apparently the common consensus is that the whole Amber drama is just draining. Like, it's kind of like the Jim and Pam thing from The Office, where you don't want to see these characters going through struggle, and it just kind of seems a little excessive.
Yeah, it's compared to like what is in the comics, they really drag it out in the show for some reason, and like it does take like way too much screen time of season 2, which I thought they would have kind of went more towards like the whole like, okay, Mark is kind of like maturing and realizing like what he wants as a person,
Yeah.
which I mean they do kind of touch on that, but they yeah, they do focus so much on the whole Amber and Mark thing to the point where it's like irritating and it's just annoying. Like it doesn't make you want to keep watching. And with shows like Invincible that, they're dropping like the episodes in like segments, it kind of makes you like just have that feeling of like burnout in a way. It's like, do I really want to keep watching this? Like if it's just gonna be like this couple like going through it, like it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
kind of like annoying to watch.
Yeah, and it's like, if you're really gonna, like, because I understand it's hard to make a show in general, but it's extremely difficult to like make everything 22 minutes. You have an arc for the episode, because you have to take the comics, make them into 22-minute episodes, then you have to write like an arc for that specific episode. Yeah, I just, the fact that it just felt like every episode started out with, oh, I'm sorry that I haven't been paying as much attention to you, but I swear I'll make it up to you this time. And then, like, uh-oh, Mark's got to go on an adventure. Looks like that date's not happening. And then Amber looks sad. And, yeah, it's like, come on.
Like, and part of, like, why it feels so, like, kind of compressed and overwhelming is because, like, in the comics, you have so many more pages to kind of, like, give the story, like, it's time to grow. But then in the show, it's like you said, 22 minutes. They're kind of jam packing it in, and you don't get that full like comic experience. But I think they're doing like a pretty decent job. It's not awful, but it's not as good as I kind of wanted it to be.
So you feel like they're packing it in more than they are stretching it out? Because I feel like it's the opposite, having not read the comics.
So I think like it's like too much Mark and Amber stuff like happening like in this season because like they're trying to fit like such a big part of the comics into each season. Because like I think they're doing, I forget if it's 4 or 5 seasons, but I know they're doing somewhere around there, and I don't know how they're gonna like fit everything that they possibly like want to fit into like you know to kind of like get that full like Invincible experience that the comics offer. Like there's
Dang.
so much that they didn't cover like in the, I think season 2 already starts with like the second book's like contents, which is kind of weird to me because in the first book, I mean, there's like 1,000 pages that they could cover. Like it's a lot, and I think they just skipped straight to book 2, but I could be wrong on that. It's been a while since I like read the books.
So what, like, now I don't know if this would be a spoiler because of what they have to include. Actually, I don't even remember where like the end of it left off, but what like what could they have included to make that like Amber stuff better? Because again, it just seems like they're just constantly bashing your head into like this, table of like, not making time. Oh, bad things just keep happening. Oh, just like the series of unfortunate events. Are you like, is there more space between them, or is there more like depth to the situations?
There's so much more like depth to the situation, like, and you kind of like Amber in the show is so like upfront and like abrasive about everything, while in the comics she's kind of like a little more like laid back, and like she's obviously like upset, but it's not like the same like anger and bitterness that they give her in the show.
Yeah.
Like they kind of give her this like more like angst, which is kind of like odd because I don't really think that's like who Amber's character is. And it's kind of like a weird mixture between like the Adam Eve in the comics and like the Amber in the comics. Like they kind of mashed them together into the Amber in the show, and it just kind of like it doesn't feel right. Like it feels like the characters are kind of like wrongly represented.
Yeah.
Because later in the comics, like when Adam Eve is like, you know, she's in the story still, but they kind of like give her this whole arc where she's like very like bitter and stuff. But that kind of, you know, I feel like they kind of took that part of Adam Eve and like tried to shove it into like Amber, and it doesn't seem right to me. Like it doesn't seem like the character's like a good representation of the character in the comics.
Yeah. I definitely, cuz like that's one thing where, you know, Amber is constantly, you know, she's constantly put down, and it's like you're kind of waiting for her to snap. And then she kind of starts like snapping, you know, like yes, she's understanding about it. Yes, she's pissed, and like you said, she is like a little angsty. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, you know, it feels like the basics are there. Like she knows that it's like not the most ideal situation. You know, she really cannot be in a relationship with this guy because, you know, he's just in a different world. You know, he's like part of a different thing. But instead of being like nice about it, she's just kind of like, I don't know, like you said, she is like kind of unnecessarily bitter to the point where it just, again, it just feels like you're just being bashed over and over and over again because, again, there's like this pressure building. You're like waiting for her to snap versus waiting for her to like, you know, just get upset about it instead of, you know, getting upset, like being disappointed and accepting the fact that it's not going to work versus getting pissed off and exploding about it, you know? I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So like another thing that like kind of like about season 2 that it's like it's a little off-putting for me that they focus that much time on like the Mark and Amber stuff when in the comics there are so many different like side characters that kind of are starting to get more of like quote unquote screen time in the book. Like they start giving time to like other characters besides Mark too. Like you kind of get more of like, you know, Alan's like storylines developing, which I think they did touch on in season 2 more. Like I think the last episode they show like Alan, he goes into space and finds Nolan, or is he captured yet? I think
he gets beat up by some Viltrumites, and then he comes back stronger. I know that. And then he ends up meeting up with Mark, coming down to Earth and saying like, "Hey, you know, like these comics are about real people, you know."
Oh, right. And then yeah, okay. So Mark kind of starts learning about the books and how he should be reading them and all that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean that's good. I like that is included within like the show, but there's kind of like more like emotional stuff with Mark that I don't think they really like touched on yet. But it could be like I said because I feel like season 2 it like I think season 2 enters like where the second compendium starts, but it doesn't really like get very deep into it. So I guess we'll just have to wait for season 3 to see like where they take it from there.
Okay. Yeah, it did feel like season 2 ended like again, like I had to question if I had even seen the last episode because I was like, what happened again? Like it just kind of like petered out into nothing. Peter.
And I know well, I guess, okay. So they do talk about Angstrom Levy, and he's very important to like the whole like Mark character development. So, I
Who's he
mean,
again?
he's the scientist that he tried to get all the different
Yes.
versions of himself to be like within just one body, so that he would like know everything
Yeah.
he could possibly know. And then in the final episode, like Mark, you know, fights him because he tries to hurt his mom and Oliver, his baby brother.
Yeah, that was yeah.
And then yeah, it's just very gory, and you know, Mark kind of realizes like, holy shit, like, you know, I don't know, can we swear on this? I don't.
Oh yeah, I don't care.
Okay. He kind of says like holy shit, like I didn't realize I'm that strong and I can, you know, kill someone with just that little amount of, you know, effort.
Well, of course, son,
So,
you're a Viltrumite.
yeah, like he just kind of has to like reel himself in and realize like, wow, like this, it's literally like the classic Spider-Man line, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And like Mark will kind of like have to discover, what it takes to be a hero, and kind of like what it takes to be good and bad as a hero, like where's going too far and what is, necessary to be done.
Yeah, because he really beats the crap out of him, right? He, like, kills him,
Yeah.
doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I think he just like squashes him, and then he like explodes. Like it's pretty gruesome. Um,
Hey, but I
but
mean, dude, protecting, man, it's like wild animal instincts.
yeah, it's you kind of see that family is very important to Mark, and that drove him to kind of um, take that anger out on Engstrom. But we kind of also see that a little bit in Nolan in like the first season, when he's beating the crap out of Mark, and then he gives him that look, and Mark's like, "Please, Dad," and then Nolan just flies away. So
Yeah.
kind of see that there's that family aspect coming in and showing that Viltrumites can still have a sort of emotion or feeling.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if this is like a future thing, or like if they're going to explore this later on, or what, because I don't know. Is the series even done yet?
Yeah, it's finished. The comic's finished, I think, like in the early 2010s.
Okay, I was going to say, because it is kind of like this interesting thing where, like, the Viltrumites are supposed to be basically these, like, superheroes, but they're still humans, or they're still animals. They still have that visceral, like, instinct to protect their kin, and it's like, you have Mark's dad, or like you have Nolan, who, he thinks he's all high and mighty, and that he's like all enlightened and stuff, but he still caves to the family thing, when Mark's like, Dad, or when he says like, I'd still have you, like being immortal, I'd still have you, it like hits him, because again, it's like, even if you're the most powerful entity, you still have family. I don't know if that's something they bring up or what, but I would like to see that.
They definitely touch on that more. So I don't want to talk too much because I don't want to spoil it, but they will touch more on that. And
Yeah.
about the whole family aspect, and Viltrumites kind of developing as like characters and as a race.
Well, and like with Oliver too, like why the hell does Nolan care about this kid? Like it's because it's his.
Him.
It's because it's his son, but like, yeah, I don't know. It is really interesting, that whole family thing. Well, I guess we can move on to, well, I can talk a little bit about the Bikeriders and the Beekeeper quickly, just because there's not a crazy amount to say about that. Now, the Beekeeper, first of all, I think we might have talked about it a little bit earlier, but it is like a John Wick, esque movie. Like, I think John Wick has kind of spawned its own genre, or like kind of like the Jason Bourne movies. But yeah, this Beekeeper movie, it's a guy, he's an ex-member of this military program who goes on a vigilante crusade to save the world, etc. It was really cool. The action was definitely there. Some really cool action, actually, for being, an amateur-ish movie. It wasn't like a AAA crazy movie. The acting wasn't the best, The cinematography was a little goofy. The set design was a little, iffy at parts. But again, it's like, this movie didn't set out to be perfect. It just set out to be a good time, and it totally succeeded, which I think is another thing that makes a good movie good, is, you set out with a goal in mind, you achieve that goal, You don't try to go past your, you don't bite off more than you can chew, I guess. And then I guess the Bikeriders, too. Same thing. It's a movie that was based on a photo album from, like, the 50s or 60s.
So weird, but
yeah.
like such a cool concept.
It's like a historical fiction biopic, which is like a weird thing, but yeah, again, like very cool. It's all told from the perspective of this woman who was dating Austin Butler. I think she actually was his wife. And she just tells the story of this gang from her point of view. And I saw, Jeremy Johns at all?
I don't think so.
He's a YouTuber who, he does really good commentary on movies, but he basically said, like, she understands why Austin Butler's character loves the biking scene, and it's like refreshing to see her understand it, and she's able to explain it as an outsider, but still having like all of the emotion behind why people care about riding their bikes or being part of this gang. And the story was really cool too, because it just started out as a bunch of like nerds and rejects who, wanted a place to go. They didn't have strong leadership in them really. But they had each other. And then over time, just these young, crazy dudes get involved, changes the whole biker scene. So I think it was also kind of a commentary, like advocating for the, for like sympathy towards bikers who are often judged for, just being criminals or whatever, when in reality they're just either young crazy dudes or they're just people looking for a place to belong, especially if they came from like bad backgrounds. So both of those movies I'd recommend, especially the Bikeriders. I think that was insanely well made. It was picked up off of the Telluride Film Festival, which is like a decently big film festival. My graphic design professor from college actually did their introduction animation for like a few years, so that was cool. I don't know if it's the same Telluride Film Festival or if there are different ones, but at the very least, there's something to talk about related to that.
That's interesting. The whole like photo album thing, going back on that.
Yeah.
So how did they develop like a plot from it? Like, were there that many pictures in this photo album that they kind of like looked at and they were like, hey, like this is something that we can kind of like make a story out of? Or did they kind of interview people who were in the pictures, or like, how did they develop out of that?
To be totally honest, I have no idea. At the end of the movie, I know they showed pictures of some of the characters, so I would assume that the people were real people and that the stories were probably a little bit embellished, or maybe a little bit assumed. But overall, yeah, just the characters were really engaging, really well written, whether they were real or not. It seemed real. Like, I thought it was a legit biopic until I looked it up and it said it wasn't. So, I don't know. Yeah. Again, it's just like good writing, you don't have to have flashy anything. You just have to have good writing first and foremost, even if your acting's the worst,
And it's kind of like nice to see something refreshing like that, to see something that kind of took something unique and just went with it. Like, they didn't really have like a franchise to go off of. They just were like, all right, let's make this movie out of this photo album. Like, I don't know, that's cool.
Yeah, well, it's like a challenge, I'm a big believer in the whole put yourself in a box and it'll force you to innovate type of thing, aka creativity breeds innovation. Or no, what is it? It's the opposite of that. Or not really the opposite, but it's like limitation breeds creativity. That's what it is. So they give themselves this photo book, and it's like, all right, make a story out of it. So you have your starting point, you have a basic outline of characters, you can start putting things together. That's my idea of how they put that movie together, I guess. Again, I could be totally wrong, but it's a good idea. And like you said, it is refreshing, and it's not something I would have seen on my own. It was actually part of that mystery movie thing, because, what is it,
Marcus Theaters.
Yeah. I wouldn't have seen that on my own. So, kind of being forced to watch that, I kept saying it's something my dad would have liked.
Yeah.
So,
the whole, like, piecing together things from, like, given assets reminds me a lot. There was this app I used to use when I was a kid, and they gave you, like, backgrounds, and then you had, like, these little characters, and they all had, like, adjustable, like, limbs. This was all, like, a 2D thing on, like, an iPad.
Yeah.
And you kind of, like, could move around the characters, the limbs, and all that, and you could create, like, stories and kind of record your own voice, and you could do different voices for the characters and all that. But I don't know what that app was called. Like, if anyone knows what that is, like, I really want to find it, because we had, like, some crazy, like, stories saved on it, but I have no idea what the app is called, if it even exists anymore. I think it had something to do with, like, storyboarding or storyboards, but
yeah,
just really fun to use.
I don't know if I used that exact one, but we definitely had one where there was like a preset, it was a text to speech thing. So you could pick characters. There was like a robot, there was like a superhero, and you could pick characters, settings, and dialogue, and kind of make a story or like a comic out of it, like kind of like an animated comic.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's always, my brothers always make fun of me, and my parents. Actually, everybody makes fun of me for this. There was a guy, and he was supposed to be like an eco-friendly superhero, so he had like a tree on his chest. But I wanted to be funny and call him Broccoli Man. But I didn't know how to spell broccoli, so I pressed play, and he's like, "Hello, I am Brojifly Man." So
Yeah, I like I remember that the app had like a monkey in it for some reason. Like there was definitely like a monkey character, like a monkey on the front cover of the app, but it had all sorts of different characters. Like there's superheroes, and then there's like a Godzilla type character, and then there's like, I think there's like a basketball court setting or something, and you could draw your own settings too, which made it like extra cool. Like
dang.
You could create your own characters too.
Yeah. Well, see, like that would be, I feel like that'd be useful in the current day, but now, with AI taking over the world and everything, no, I feel like, kids are smart enough now to kind of make that stuff in like the TikTok video editing thing,
Yeah, there's like probably more adaptable software, but for the time, that early kind of like Apple kick,
yeah,
it was pretty good technology. Like it was a fun app to use.
Yeah, it was good for all of those like creative interactive apps for kids. We had one called Zombie Cafe. That one's a classic. A lot of people played that one.
Yeah,
but it was like, it was like a cafe simulator game, kind of like The Sims. It was like orthographic view, or isometric view, I mean, where it's like, you're looking in on like a diagonally constructed cafe. You could flesh it out with different designs. You could upgrade and get different like foods and stuff. But yeah, all that creative type of stuff. And again, very topical, but Minecraft,
yeah,
it taught a lot of people how to, taught a lot of people about aesthetics and about interior design and stuff, like people our age know how to decorate a room,
Some of them not so well, but I mean, helped a little bit.
Yeah. I'm sure you have somebody in mind.
Yeah. But they're for what Minecraft is, and for it's at the very least it's made kids more creative, and you gotta give it its props for that.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it is absolutely timeless. Like, it's so simplistic, it is just, here's a world, here's a unit that you can break and build in the world with, one block, and it's got its weird quirkiness, it's got its weird Swedish quirks, it's got its weird Microsoft, sell your soul to the devil quirks. But overall, I think it's just, I don't know, it is just amazing. And to think that it's 15 years old.
Yeah, crazy.
It is just nuts. And it was around even before then.
It's like, it's interesting to see like where Minecraft as a franchise has gone, kind of similar to what I feel about Fortnite. Like, I feel like when Minecraft first came out, like people were more like lore driven with this game. Like they wanted to know more about the lore.
Yeah.
And obviously with Minecraft, the way it is, like being a sandbox game, the lore is kind of like you build your own lore.
Yeah.
But I know that like when like, people were first uploading YouTube videos about Minecraft, it was all like, oh, like, how can you find Herobrine? And
yeah,
all that.
yeah.
Like, there's always been kind of like folklore and stuff about Minecraft, and same thing with Fortnite. Like, it kind of had like lore behind it, and then I think they still do lore for Fortnite, but it's not like the same. Like, it had more of like I hate to use the word, but like a campy feel to it. Like, it had this like its own like little personal quirks and like uniqueness to it, and now it's just all kind of like, oh look, Jack Sparrow's coming now.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Beast is falling out of the air.
Mr. Beast is now skydiving into Avengers like headquarters.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Especially like, people, this is cliche, but the whole, season 4, season 5, where it was like, the superheroes, and like you could go to the different areas and like, explore the different, I don't know, all the different like lore things, like, oh, in the loading screen there's a secret, and then you go there in the game. Or like the drift skin, and it's like, I don't really care about the character, but like the skin's cool. And then after that it was just kind of like, whatever. But the alien thing I think was cool. It was kind of like harkening back to that time.
Yeah, I loved that season because they did try to kind of call back and be like, all right, look, there's these alien characters, like they're invading the map and all that. And they kind of like that whole like loading screen and like finding the secrets based off the loading screen. Once they got rid of that, they kind of like lost that charm for me. Like that kind of was like a huge driving point to like get on the game and like see what was new. Like
Yeah, and the weekly challenges.
Yeah, and I heard now that like weekly challenges like got nerfed to the ground, so it's like it's not even worth like doing them.
Yeah.
I think they give like 10k XP or something like that, 15k. Like it's such a low amount.
Dude, I remember the kids who would get up and do all of the weekly challenges before school started, like the next day. They'd come into school and be like, yeah, the weekly challenges you guys are going to start after school? Got them all done already. It's like,
yeah, they tell you about, all right, well, now you're searching chests at Risky Reels, and then everyone was suffering with that challenge for like, weeks.
Dude, but that's what you need. And then you'd show up, and everybody would be crouching and like giving each other a hand. Nowadays, it's just some freaking 2-year-old 360 no-scoping you.
Some 2-year-old cranking the max height and then like dropping down on you and like one shot headshot you with like a whatever the new pump is. I don't know. They just create like, it's another thing. The weapons became like way too complicated. Like it was kind of nice when it was just like, all right, here's a pump shotgun, here's an SMG, here's an assault rifle. Play the game.
It was a little too try-hardy, because it was like, no guys, it's not the pump shotgun, it's the twisted loaded double-barreled triple pump exploited rage gun, and the only difference is that it has like one more point of damage and like one less point of speed.
And it has like 6 shots instead of 5 or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like, come on, guys. Like, I like to say this now. They were like showing their hand. They were showing how the sausage was made. Because so many people got into like the nitty gritty about how each weapon works that like it was kind of obvious that they were literally just changing a few number values, to make a quote unquote new weapon. And it's like, yeah, it does change the balance of the game, but again, you're literally just changing a few numbers and seeing what works.
Yeah. I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but that like little recharge mode or whatever it's called like looks promising. It's kind of like the mode that...
Oh, yeah.
I know Call of Duty Warzone did something similar, but you drop into like a smaller version of like the OG map, and then, they have tilted towers, all the locations that everyone loved, Salty Springs probably in there. But you drop in and you have to kind of like gain, weapons and stuff quicker so that there's more like stress on you, but there's less players so that the match can be quicker.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it should be really fun, and I'm glad that they're finally like, all right, maybe we should like include some kind of variation of like the classic map, because it is like it's their biggest hit. Like, the game was at its peak when that map was out, so why not have some sort of homage or some sort of way to play it?
Yeah, and when Fortnite OG came out, their player base went way back up to the height.
Yeah,
I don't know if it performed better,
crazy.
But
it might have, because there's so many people that like just joined the game, like, coming back into it. They're like, all right, maybe this is my chance to get in.
Yeah, and it was like, even like the little kids, even like the elementary school kids knew like, oh shit, like all of the old OG players are coming back for this one, like this is a big deal. But the issue with that is that's not like a sustainable model, so they're gonna have to get rid of that game mode for a couple years and bring it back, like this new one that came out, or this coming out.
Yeah, it's definitely like, it hurts to like know that, but at the same time, I think like I was saying, if they find a way to get back to that model of like making like their own like story, their own characters fun again, then you don't even have to worry about making that like OG map, because you could just make a map that has like more personality and more life to it. Like the new locations are so like realistic looking, I guess. Like they include all these like big castles and all that, but it's like
it just gets
that's not,
old.
yeah, it's not what I went to play Fortnite for. I played it because it had all the fun, goofy landing spots like Tomato Town or Greasy Grove, and
Yeah, yeah.
um, even like a place like Haunted Hills. Like they'll never
Uh,
make something as simplistic as like a graveyard and two like haunted looking churches. Like that just won't be a thing again because they try to go so big and like beyond with everything.
well, and that's another thing is like, that was back when things were simple, like, it's hard to capitalize on nostalgia because you can't, you know, it's something you can't milk too much. And that's why I'm saying like OG isn't sustainable like to constantly have out. Like they constantly need to have like, you know, the OGs will come back for when we do, reload in 2024. Then we'll have like a creative focused year where we'll have a lot of younger kids playing. Then after that, we'll do a year of, like mixed, like high schoolers playing. We'll implement more like strategy type stuff. And then after that, we'll do another OG year. It's like they're like finding their player base and like divvying up, so that it's I don't know, so that there's always a big deal for somebody basically. If that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate way to run a fan base, is you have to have multiple distinct sections that you cater to at different times. So not everybody's going to be happy all the time.
The Pokemon model, like having Pokemon Let's Go, where it was kind of like for the new fans who played Pokemon Go and just want to get back into like the video games or get into the games for the first time.
Yeah.
And then all the like OG fans who like still play every game were like, oh, like this is so childlike and so easy, and like we want like a hard game. And then all the new fans are like, oh, like Scarlet and Violet is too complex or whatever, like can't figure out what I'm doing, that kind of thing. So it's just kind of like you said, catering to each group and finding that kind of balance that you can appeal to many groups and not just like the one group.
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately the way to go. For anything, I think who is that? There was a YouTuber who brought that to my attention. Somebody talked about it, but it might have been like I don't know if it was PewDiePie or if it was somebody, but basically they were saying like, when you're doing daily gaming videos, you're diluting the value of your videos, versus if you choose to cover specific topics, like Matt Pat covering Five Nights at Freddy's like every so often. That added so much value. It made it such a big deal, but at the same time, it forced him to face the reality that some videos just are not going to get as popular, So he had to like kind of gauge, this is going to be a big video drop. This is not going to be, same thing with Fortnite. Like this is going to be a year of OG players. This is going to be a year of kids, I don't know if any other companies are doing that. I assume they are, but if they were to ever reveal that, it would kind of, they're at risk of ruining the whole thing. By saying like, we understand like what the fans want, we're just purposely not giving it to you.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Going kind of back on the like the whole YouTube thing. Like I know that I was talking about it with Olivia, my girlfriend, earlier today, but with people like PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye, like they have such huge like subscriber counts, but like honestly, like a majority of their videos like aren't hitting like the numbers that they used to, and it's really not even about like subscribers at this point. It's just like hitting that kind of topic that people are like interested in at the moment, and like unless you're really someone who kind of has people like reeled in for your personality, like it's very hard to make a video that's like gonna gain traction unless it hits like that one topic that like people are super interested in right now.
Yeah.
Because so the YouTubers we are using as like examples is like Drew Gooden. Like we'll talk about like the most random stuff ever, and his videos consistently get like a couple million views. Like they do well, and he doesn't release videos very often. It's probably like once a month, but people come back because they're like, oh my gosh, like Drew Gooden is dropping another video.
The McRib is back.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of like dopamine kick that you get from, oh, this thing is back, like it's returned.
Yeah. Well,
and
it's like a big deal. Everybody's coming in for it.
Yeah, and people like PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye, they've been, I think PewDiePie kind of slowed down, but Jacksepticeye has been like releasing videos like almost, I think, close to like daily for like years upon years upon years upon years. And it's like at some point, like I think he's even said himself, like he's burnt out, and like he's kind of like wanting to just kind of do other projects besides YouTube, because it's just become too much for him. And his view counts and stuff show it too. Like people aren't interested in his kind of videos as much anymore.
Yeah, well, they're getting burnt out too. You can only milk a cow so long.
Yeah. And
yeah,
it was another thing we were kind of like talking about. A lot of the kids that grew up watching gaming videos are now like the kind of people who can afford to buy the games that they were watching videos on now.
Yeah.
Like, because they're all kind of getting jobs or like growing up, so there's not really that audience of kids watching games. Like now kids just go to TikTok and watch whatever World of T-Shirts brain rot compilation. Like they're not going to YouTube and watching some old fart play video games for like a half an hour.
Yeah. And the standard of content has risen a lot too. Now with AI, it's going up like crazy, but people know how to make good videos. And like at the time, gaming videos were like a new thing. And you have these different eras of YouTube where certain content is just on top. And it's like, I don't know, again, like gaming videos, like food reviews. Food reviews were so popular at one point, but they just aren't anymore, Gaming videos kind of got replaced by streaming, and because people don't want to watch a whole gaming video, they want more value per minute. So if if a live stream can go on for a few hours and then you take the highlights from it, then there you go.
And it's much more fun to be in a stream where it feels like you're kind of like getting that like couch gameplay, if that makes sense. Like you're talking with the streamer or whatever, like, oh, like blah blah blah, you're just kind of like, it's more interactive than watching a YouTube video and watching someone essentially sit there and talk to a camera.
Yeah,
like people like that social aspect of gaming, and you don't really get that as much from a video as you would from like a live stream.
Yeah, and also people want to multitask with their content now too. Like listenable content is exploding. Like this podcast, I guarantee that most people are not going to watch this. They're going to listen to it. And that's why the video doesn't really matter as much. A lot of people listen to podcasts on Spotify and stuff. It's just, I don't know. Like, it's the multitasking aspect. And it's like, again, the value per minute. If you really like Jacksepticeye, of course you're going to sit down and watch his video. But, personality is not... You don't win people over with personality. You keep people around with personality. You reel people in with heavy hitter type content, And if you're not doing any of that, if your content is just stagnant, you're not trying anything new, you're not taking any risks, then, you're going to keep people around, but you're probably going to start losing people. And when you talk about like a YouTube upload schedule, like MatPat, he uploads, or back in the day, he would do like a Five Nights at Freddy's video every once in a while because he knew that would explode his fan base, but he did other types of stuff. I do this exact same model with my content because I know the JoJo videos will always get a ton of views, but I want to do other stuff. And other people want to see other stuff. And if I do JoJo every video, then it's going to burn out, I'm going to run out of stuff to talk about. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's interesting. It's strategizing, and it's crazy that this exists in so many other places, especially in the entertainment industry, where you need to create value and scarcity around certain topics and trends and, etc.
I always kind of see those channels where it's like the Fortnite channels where their whole thing is they just like talk about like one little thing, but the thumbnail and the like title is something really clickbaity, like this is now free in the item shop
Yeah,
in
yeah.
all caps. But like those YouTubers, like I feel like they know exactly what they're doing. They're making a quick buck with their videos, but are they really enjoying what they make? Probably not. They're just like kind of pasting these things out because they know it's profitable and they have that model going. And I mean, all props to them. Like they're making probably good money out of it, but I'm sure they're not like thrilled that that's what they're stuck with and they can't kind of branch out and do things they actually like want to do and enjoy.
But the thing is, they could totally, like, if they, put effort in and tried some new stuff, yes, they'd stumble around a little bit, but, if their audience is just built on this flashy, attention grabbing stuff, then they're not really a dedicated audience, They're just there for the trends and the quick stuff, they're not there for the long term.
Yeah.
And also, right now, too, YouTube rewards clickbait like crazy. That's why you're having, those thumbnails where it's a word and period, and it's like overly minimalistic thumbnails. Because YouTube...
This was my last time doing this, and then it's like a guy with his like hand over his face, like face bombing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, YouTube is rewarding clickbait right now because the two things that the algorithm likes is retention and click-through rate. So, do people click on your video? Do they find it interesting? Do they find it appealing? And do they stick around? So you could have a super clickbaity video, but, if you provide actual value, like decent, good content in that video, then hell yeah, you're going to get promoted. So that's why, like, clickbait isn't necessarily wrong, because you're kind of tricking people into taking their medicine, The medicine isn't wrong. It's just not something people would go for,
Come here and take your medicine.
If you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding. Oh, jeez.
Like, I read The Shining recently, and Jack Torrance just running around the hotel saying, "Come here and take your medicine," like is like stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Like I just like picture that all the time for some reason. Anytime I hear the word medicine, like it just pops in my head.
Bad medicine.
But
yeah,
it's definitely interesting, like how YouTube is kind of morphing with this whole long content style, and that's what the people want now. Like, the more mature audience is on YouTube, and they want thought-provoking, well produced and high quality content. So
yeah,
they'll sit around as long as it's good stuff. Like people, I know I've been watching like videos where it's an hour long and I don't even realize it because it's just good content. Like they got good bits. There's like, it's not necessarily always scripted, but they have some sort of outline to it, and it just is entertaining for an hour at a time. And like you said, I just kind of put it on in the background while I'm doing something else. Like if I'm playing a game or cleaning my room or something, just put on. I've been watching this channel Hive Mind. I just put their videos on and listen to them, and they do a lot of like humor based bits, but they also play like music trivia type games and all that. So
yeah,
great channel.
Yeah, Hive Mind, definitely go check them out. I know I will. I had to repeat it so that I don't forget it, because I am very prone to forgetting things. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, like, another thing that I found too is that if you make content that is, listenable, you put it on in the background, obviously people are not going to be paying attention the whole time, but if you say something interesting or have like a meme or something, it will capture people's attention, like they will kind of automatically tune into the important stuff. I believe, I believe.
For me, it's always like what catches my attention the most when I'm listening to like podcasts or like some sort of video. Anytime they throw in some kind of like humor or something, and I have to like go back and I'm like, they said what? Like that kind of thing. I always gotta go back and like hear it again. Or like if it's something that really like gets me the first time, I like watch it like a few times and just start like cracking up about it.
Well, again, retention.
Yeah.
you know, you get over 100% retention on a clip, that means people are replaying it. You know, they're gonna clip it, they're gonna, you know, share it, whatever. It's the name of the game nowadays. And that's what I'm saying is value per minute on your content is, you know, if you have really dense editing, really dense humor, memes, you know, multiple layers where people have to pause and replay and stuff to get the full meaning, that is just percent upon percent upon percent of retention, just stacking and stacking, you know. And YouTube rewards that, you know, good stuff.
Kind of like TikToks where you sit there and you watch the same thing over and over again like 50 times, or like when you're brushing your teeth and you're watching like a reel or TikTok at the same time and it like replays like 10 times.
Yeah, your fingers wet.
Yeah, something like that. Because I know I'm not the only person who does that. That's definitely everyone.
Yeah,
but
I do the exact same thing, and that's why looping content was so big for a while, because you don't realize you started rewatching it, you know?
Yeah.
And they're just stacking up that percent retention, you know? It's
crazy.
It is crazy how it all works. And, you know, every day we're discovering new stuff about it, which is just amazing because, you know, you think, like, you got it all figured out, or that, you know, there's nowhere else to innovate, but there always is, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I guess we can move into the final topic of the podcast, which is... Drum roll, please. Oh, that's a reference to Christmas Vacation, by the way. Inside Out 2.
Hi, I'm Anxiety.
Hi, I'm Anxiety. Don't come anywhere near me. So, I actually wrote an alternate ending to Inside Out 2 that I will reveal in a bit. But, yeah, what were your thoughts on it?
All right, so, I mean, I've been hearing, like, a lot of people apparently have been, like, really, really praising Inside Out online, apparently, from what I've heard. I haven't personally seen a lot of it because I don't go on social media a lot anymore.
Saying it's good or bad?
People have been saying it's, like, really good and relatable, and I don't agree. Like, I just did not like Inside Out 2. I thought that it felt like a very cheap, like, sequel considering how good the first one was and how much like emotional impact the first one had.
Yeah.
I know people kind of had memes about like emotions having feelings, and that's like the new thing Pixar's like touching on when the first Inside Out came out. But then like in the second one, like just like everything feels like so like rushed and forced. Like it's all like so like it comes and goes, and like the whole like plot of Inside Out 2 being just like them going to hockey camp, it just doesn't give enough like to like the character of Riley. Like we could see so much more, like maybe her being in, you know, middle school now, or I think she's in middle school.
Yeah, she's going into high school, I believe.
Oh, going to high school. She's going into high school. So we could see like way more like emotional development there. But I think it's kind of weird that they chose to just focus on hockey and like just focus on that area.
I'll tell you what, man, I swear they did this for a reason. I mean, this is my hypothesis, because one of my initial criticisms was, why are they not doing anything, you know, if they have anxiety as like a thing, right? Like as like a character, why are they not doing anything with social media? You know, if you really want to make something relatable to, you know, like the whole reason, one of the big reasons Gen Z and, you know, I guess Gen Alpha now, but I think this movie was made more for Gen Z people, are so socially inept is because of social media. And I think that they're saving it for the next movie. And the hockey camp thing was an easy way for them to not have to deal with cell phones, for them to have like an easy way out, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense, because when they have to give out their, you know, give in the cell phones, I should say, at the very beginning.
But it's just like, I mean, I totally agree. I think my biggest criticism with the movie is that they tried to tackle these mature themes, but they did not go hard enough. And if they were going to, like, I don't know, it's just, like, I just, you know, they have all this friend drama stuff, right? Like, you know, the fact that Riley is, you know, she's like abandoning her friends to be with these cooler friends because she's afraid that she's not going to be cool in high school. And it's like, you know, like make the older girl, make them be like mean, you know? That's how girls actually are. Like, they are mean to each other. And don't make the communication so easy either. Like, it bothers me that Riley was so easy, you know, it was so easy for her to apologize, because, like, that's not how it is. You know, people don't apologize, and there's awkwardness, you know? And it's like, I don't know, like, they, you know, making the high school girls, like, a little older, like, or a little meaner, a little edgier would have done a good thing, because then, you know, I don't know. It's just, I don't think they went deep enough into any of that stuff. I think they played it really, really safe, which is a big mistake. And, you know, I just hope that they go a little deeper in the next movie, especially if they do all this social media stuff.
Yeah.
You know, with her, you know, obsessing over. I wrote out some thoughts for the third movie as well. You know, I think, you know, I think having her, like, I don't know, having Riley become, like, very insecure, you know, because she is extremely ambitious. You know, I think her character is really well done. You know, she's anxious, and she's like a workaholic because she's anxious and afraid of failing. You know, that's a really big thing, you know, for a lot of people, especially really talented people. You know, they just work themselves, and they're so afraid of failing. And if I don't have this, then I have nothing, you know, that type of thing. I don't know. It's, it would just be interesting to see her, you know, especially if she ends up becoming, like, you know, the captain of the hockey team or something, you know, to see that whole thing unfold. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I was kind of rambling for a second. I mean, do you have any thoughts on any of that kind of stuff? I mean, again, I really appreciate her character.
Yeah, I do also like her character. Like, I don't think that her character is, like, the weak part of like, Inside Out 2. I think it's more so like you said, the surrounding cast was kind of, like, unrealistic in the fact that they apologized so early. I would even say, like, the captain herself is, like, unrealistic. Like, realistically, like, when a freshman is coming into the team, like, they're not going to be that nice to her. Like, they're kind of just, like, gonna be like, oh, like, who is this person trying to, like, be such a hot shot and all that. Like,
yeah, like a little hazing.
Yeah, I don't think that's realistic either. And I don't know if it's just, like, me, but I feel like the most recent Pixar movies have been trying to play it, like, too safe, because they're trying to make it kid friendly, but at the same time they're trying to push, like, more mature themes.
Yeah.
And it's like they're not finding that balance that they used to with, like, Up or Ratatouille, where it's like adult themes but presented in, like, a kid's movie.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a little too obvious.
Yeah, they've lost their magic that they used to have when it was, like, mixing the adult themes into kind of like a digestible kids, you know, program or movie, I guess. That's
what I was saying too when we were coming out of the theater was, you know, there's no subtlety in it at all. It's like, you know, it's like, you know, she has this problem. You know, the problem is too direct. You know, anxiety is so complicated. It's more than just, I want to be with cool friends and not with my lame friends. And it's like, you know, that's why I wish they made these high school girls a little meaner, because, like, of course they wouldn't care if Riley hung out with her friends. You know, of course they wouldn't care if she listened to, you know, like, middle school-esque music, because they're just nice people in the movie. If they were meaner, then they would be a little more judgmental about her music taste. They would be judgmental about her friends, especially if they weren't as good at hockey, you know? So yeah, commit to it. Make them mean, because that's what the real world is, and things are complicated and upsetting, you know? And, like, if you're gonna do something with anxiety, especially if you're gonna have a panic attack. Sorry, they totally ripped off Puss in Boots with that panic attack scene.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, if you're gonna do it, then do it. Don't just dip your toes in, man. And don't be, you know, so direct with it. Be subtle, you know? I don't know. It's like they were direct when they should have been subtle, and they were not as direct when they should have been, you know, when they should have really brought the hammer down. especially with the anxiety stuff. I don't know, man.
It's yeah, it just like I don't even know. It's just like it's just not the same. Like, and again, I don't want to be like the big like nostalgia critic type character here, like bringing back like when I was like saying, oh, like the old seasons of Fortnite are, not the same as the new ones, but like
Yeah.
it is the same way. I feel like with Pixar, like it just doesn't hit the same, and I don't think it's just because I'm getting older. I genuinely don't think they're hitting that formula that they used to.
Yeah, well, it's like I think about Up. That was one that I saw that movie so many times before I really understood the message behind it. Now, again, I could be totally wrong about this, but I think I kind of understand what the movie was trying to say. So, you know, again, I saw this movie so many times before I even understood there was any kind of message there. So Carl is like this frustrated old man, and he made it his life goal to go to Paradise Falls. He's doing it for his wife. She's gone now, but he's gonna do it. And it's like, he's just stuck in the past. He's stuck living with this woman, and what he really needs is to develop new relationships and to move on. He's grieving, and all of this trip is done out of anger, and he's so mean to Russell because he just wants to do this thing for Ellie, when in reality he's just doing it for himself. And at the end of the movie, he ends up realizing, like, wow, this kid Russell, who has no father figure, comes into my life. We're basically both, I never was able to have kids. I was never able to like carry on my legacy and be a good father or grandfather. And it's like, it's like the answer was so obvious, the whole time. Russell was sitting in front of me, and he's exactly what I needed. And and Russell just wants Mr. Fredrickson. He wants Carl, without even realizing why he wants him. It's because he needs like that father figure, and it's just, I don't know. Like I never put that together. And again, I could be totally wrong. That's just my interpretation of it. But I don't know.
Doug the dog.
Yeah, I mean, Doug is just unconditional love. I mean, there's a reason why Carl rejects that, and why Russell accepts that. It's like, why wouldn't you just take on this furry, cute creature that just wants to love you? It's like, Carl's like, well, I don't need anybody. I just need my ambition, and I just need my, I just need things to go back to the way they were. Versus Russell, who's just like, oh my gosh, like, he's so sweet, he's so loving. Can we keep him? Yeah, I don't know. What do you mean there are monsters nearby? There are no monsters nearby. For anybody
even, like,
listening, there's monsters. I can't sleep.
The bird is also like an interesting like kind of character in there too, because it's like it's not quite like the unconditional love that the dog has, but like it's like it's almost like that random like middle-aged mom in need, and like Carl kind of has to help him out or help her out.
Yeah,
like it is more so just like showing that he's life's not all about yourself.
Yeah, well,
your own goals and ambitions.
It's back to that whole animalistic family thing. Oh, did you seriously just blow up my house? You piece of shit. My roof is gone. Yeah, it's like, it's in its most primal form. It's that animalistic instinct to protect your family, And it's like, Russell gets that. Carl doesn't get it, Doug gets it. I don't know. It is just a very interesting dynamic. It's like you have one person who's overly dependent, one person who's extremely independent, a functional family that exists in the animal kingdom, and unconditional love that exists in like the animal kingdom. It's like all these different angles. It's very, very awesome.
Mutualism, I can't think of the other ones. Parasitic relationship, all those sort of relationships kind of tie in there too.
Yeah, like codependency, like
Yeah.
Carl and Ellie were kind of codependent, like
Yeah.
they had no outside interference for many reasons, some good, some bad, whatever, depends on how you look at it, and it depends on where they end up because of it. And obviously they were good until Ellie died, and then Carl had to start doing things on his own, and he just didn't know how to function. He beat up a dude for just asking him to move his house.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that part, but yeah, that kind of like even speaks to maturity. Like, I feel like that's something that Pixar would be afraid to show in this like current
Yeah,
day and age, like just like abuse and like what, you know, real heartbreak can kind of lead you to do. Like,
yeah, and it's like,
but instead we have friends that are instantly forgiving and perfect, and I don't know, I think there's not the realism because they try to make things too perfect and too
yeah,
censored.
yeah, and it's like, again, it's like I never understood Carl beating that dude up, but it just makes so much sense. Like, it's just, it's something the kids wouldn't understand, and they, see Carl as a bad guy. It's in its very basic form. It's bad guy turned good. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I guess now would be a good time for me to read out what I came up with as an alternate ending for Inside Out 2. All right. So let me know what you think of this. If it's good, bad, whatever. I'm not, I just wrote it down quick because I was like, you know what? I feel like I could do a better job writing the ending of this because I'm an asshole and I'm stuck up and whatever. So, it's the game. The hockey game's happening. Anxiety's at the control board, trying to get, 3 goals, right? That's like her big thing is like, you need 3 goals. Riley is like, she knocked her friend over to get this goal because all she cares about is the goal, the success, like the ambition and the drive. And all of the... Huh?
Sorry. I just said, I'm a good person.
Oh, yeah. It's, again, no subtlety there. No subtlety at all. That's not what anxiety is all about, Like, when I feel like anxiety or social anxiety, to me it's like, I feel like I'm the only person who acts this way, and I'm strange for doing it, or whatever. I don't know. For her, it would be like, maybe it's like I'm falling behind, I'm not up to par, It's not that I'm not a good person. It's that I'm like, I make too many mistakes. I make more mistakes than the average person. I'm less successful than the average person. I need to make sure that I'm not at the bottom, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Before you kind of like continue the story,
there are 3 creepers on my roof.
Oh no. I was kind of like talking about this earlier with Olivia as well, but in Inside Out, like they really try to like push anxiety as like, or like anxiety to like people today, it seems like is like it's being pushed as if it's something special, and it really shouldn't be because everyone has to go through anxiety in their life. Like, it is a normal emotion, and that's kind of what is weird about the movie is they try to push anxiety as like they do try to push it as a normal emotion, but at the same time I feel like they try to give it special attention too.
Yeah.
And I don't really like the idea of giving it like special attention because in all honesty, like everyone has to deal with anxious emotions. Like, it's something that we all go through, and it kind of comes to everyone in different forms. So trying to like portray it as like just this like one singular type of emotion, like it just, I don't know, it just doesn't really make sense. And it's like not really like, you know, obviously there are things like anxiety disorder and things that spring off of that, but it's not as kind of like concrete as like the movie tries to like make it seem.
Yeah, definitely. And to that, let's see, I just had something, I'm kind of losing it now. You know how you can see the thought in your head, it's just kind of like floating away, you're like, come back.
Yeah, you're trying to like grasp it.
Yeah, it's yeah, I definitely with Riley, right? She's like a prodigy almost. You know, she's not your average person, which is perfect. You know, she's not your average person because she's exceptional, you know. She's, you know, they say in the movie she's really smart, she's really creative, she's really ambitious. She's extremely good at hockey, and it's like, you know, that would be perfect for her because, you know, it would be the workaholic, you know, type of anxiety where she, she doesn't want to be at the bottom. She just wants to be the best she can be, and if she makes one mistake, she just completely crumbles and falls apart. And even to the point of like how, hyper intelligent people can have people skills, or like people with autism tend to have worse social skills. Like, I think a lot of anxiety comes from bad, just having just naturally bad skills with other people, like being afraid of judgment or being afraid of what other people think of you. And to have this character who's just naturally very talented, that's perfect for her. Like, I just feel like they didn't utilize anxiety in the right way with her, if they did make her, make it more obvious that she wasn't good with relationships, that would have been a lot better of a use of that, I think. I don't know. Especially with her character, because again, she just has this really interesting character that I don't think we've ever really seen in a Pixar movie, and there's a lot of room for her to grow. They really set her up to have like a big multi-movie arc. I don't know.
Yeah, she's definitely got more like layers to her than many of the like Pixar characters, because I mean, you could argue that like, the Toy Story cast over the years has kind of had their growth and ups and downs, and we've seen like the arc of like Woody being bitter to kind of accept change, and actually
to let Andy go.
Yeah, I feel like every movie it kind of becomes something like time to accept change.
Yeah.
And, like Woody never like really gets it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess he kind of did in like the fourth movie, but like I don't know. It's just like they're milking that a little bit.
Yeah, and one thing I think they did really well was Buzz. How in the second movie he becomes Spanish.
Oh yeah. The third one.
Or the third one, yeah. Really just a good use of his character. All right. I guess I'll continue with the story here. So, we're up to speed, right? Anxiety's at the control board. All the emotions are trying to come back. Riley's freaking out. She's starting to tweak. Here's what I had, right? So, Riley gets kicked out for being aggressive. She goes to sit out. She starts to have a panic attack because she's like, oh my gosh, this is it. It was make or break, and I broke it. I ruined my chance to do well. I did all this stuff. I slighted my friends, and, now I'm paying the price for it, basically. Here's what I think. Instead of all of the emotions, making it back and, saying, oh, anxiety, you have to let Riley go, you can't have her, whatever. I think that they don't make it back, and that Riley passes out because of this. She has a panic attack. She ends up thinking she's having like a heart attack or something, which is pretty common for like panic attacks. And she ends up in the hospital. She like passes out, maybe, for whatever reason. And I think that, it would give everybody in the brain, all the emotions, like a chance to kind of think over what just happened. Everything's dark, Riley's in the hospital. All the emotions are just kind of like, what do we do now? And anxiety's gone, completely gone. They're like, where'd anxiety go? She was just running the show, and now she's completely gone. I think that, Riley wakes up. Then I think, everybody's there. And you know how the console kind of called to Joy in the movie? It like, was like, oh, she wants you, right? I think that
stuff,
yeah, I think that it'll start glowing orange instead. And it'll call, and it'll reveal the location of anxiety by, like having little particles flow down into like the underground belief area. And they'll find, anxiety's hiding under there. And they're like, what the heck, anxiety, why'd you run away? And she's like, oh my gosh, I ruined everything, and they're like, yes, you did ruin everything, but, you were just trying to help, you're just trying to make sure that Riley has a good life or whatever. But then this was my big, like, aha moment, right? It's revealed that anxiety is a good thing because it's uncertainty about the future, but that isn't terrifying. It can be exciting, right? So, like, Riley's going into high school, like, anxiety's good because she's she's excited about high school. She doesn't know what's going to happen. There are just as many good things that can happen as bad things, and I think that's, that keeps anxiety from being just a purely negative thing, because it's like, yes, I'm anxious about school, but I'm anxious to find out the results of the team. I'm anxious to find out all this stuff, because of how much good could come out of it, and change is good. I could play into that whole theme. Basically, she makes the team. She's still in the hospital. Riley is still in the hospital. She makes the team, but still is upset about it. Like Joy's like, why are you not happy about this? Like, you made the team, whatever. And then it's because she still feels bad about how she treated her friends. But because she's in the hospital, it gives her friends an obligation to come see her. It doesn't just make them come up and say, what's wrong? They could be like, wow, you really were a jerk to us, while she's in the hospital, while she's in like a vulnerable position. And then she says, sorry guys, I really didn't mean it. I was just trying to do this and this. And then basically she apologizes. She's very embarrassed. That could be like a whole, apologizing is a very embarrassing thing, with that guy.
Embarrassment actually has like an actual moment.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's just, they forgive her, and then things go back to normal. So I guess just to completely, I don't know, just to round that out, it's anxiety runs off. Riley's shut down. Her core beliefs have to grow back. That's another thing, is that like, her core self just kind of came back to normal in like one fell swoop. It's like, nah, I think being in the hospital for like a couple days would be a good way to like restore your sense of self, then just having anxiety be this uncertainty about the future, not necessarily bad, but it could be good. And then the embarrassment about her having to apologize to her friends in this extremely vulnerable position where she can't say or do anything in the hospital. I don't know. I just think that would be a much better ending. It would treat it a lot more seriously. Having her end up in the hospital because of anxiety, I think, takes it a step further than the Puss in Boots thing. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think about any of that? I mean,
I definitely like kind of showing that anxiety is not always like a bad thing. It can be a good thing to push you and motivate you. And everyone's kind of got that anxiety in them, and sometimes you got to see it as a positive thing. Like, I'm just excited to do certain things, like also like tying back the friends, that definitely makes it more realistic, and you wouldn't get that same kind of like cop out feel that the movie gives, and like that more like modern Pixar movies are doing, like
it's okay,
the cop out.
Pat.
Yeah it's kind of like, it's just playing it way too easy and way too safe, and it's kind of like, it's more real than what happened in the actual movie. Like, it kind of gives you that like Carl punching the guy because he's upset over his wife dying, like that kind of feel.
Yeah,
like an anxiety attack. It can be like really, really, really awful, but
it could also be good for you to go through something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Even like, the hospital.
Getting past it and moving on from it is like an important like experience that you kind of grow from as a person.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, like, they totally missed this. If there's one thing that I wish they did, was when they had all of the negative memories come back and rebuild Riley's sense of self, right? Why did they not say to anxiety, like, don't you see, like, you're worried about bad things happening, but bad things make us who we are, all of these bad things that Joy was getting rid of were depriving Riley of her true self. And, by worrying about the bad things, you're just worrying about change, and change is good. Good things happen to you, bad things happen to you. It all just makes you a better person. So if you're going to worry about the future, don't just worry about the bad things. Worry about the good things too, I really, especially with her rebuilding her sense of self based on these new bad memories and stuff, I think they just missed they missed the opportunity to just say that bad things make you grow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And obviously, like, it's always tough in the runtime that they have to like keep the attention of kids and stuff. But
screw 'em.
There's so many scenes that were just unnecessary in the movie that took way too much time, and they could have easily made a more fleshed out story with that time.
Yeah. And again, like, I think they could have made Riley's ambition a lot more obvious. You know, her, again, the workaholic nature, where she gets up early and is like excessively over preparing, you know? That's like a real thing that people with anxiety have to, you know, deal with. Is just like this constant pressure to, again, like not be at the bottom, you know? Nobody else is out here, you know, practicing this morning. I have to go out. I have to practice, you know? They made it a little obvious, but I wish they made it a little more obvious that she has these tendencies to just feel like she has to overperform at everything, you know? I don't know. Or I don't know. Or just the fact that, like, you know, like, anxiety is like a constant thing. Like, I think instead of ennui having a controller, I think maybe anxiety should have had a controller, because it is like a constant pinging in you that's like, you know, it's not, I'm not, you know, I'm not a good person. It's the, you know, I'm never going to succeed if I don't blank, you know? Like, if I'm not constantly on top of things, you know, the second I take my hand off the controller, things are going to go to shit, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Wii was such, like, a useless emotion. There's no really reason to have ennui in the movie. Like, the controller thing, like, kind of was, like, a cop-out when, like, you know, sadness was trying to infiltrate them and all that. But, like, what did ennui as a character really add, other than is now another character for the McDonald's, like, Happy Meal toys? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I liked Embarrassment because he kind of had, like, his, like, you know, his, like, character arc and his moments. But ennui just doesn't, like, add anything for me. Same thing with that little, like, I don't even know what was it. Envy?
Yeah, Envy was the little
another, like,
twerp.
useless character.
Yeah.
She was just like a suck up to, like, anxiety, and that's it. That was her whole personality.
Yeah, I think that, like, ennui could have been used, like, you know, again, like, if Riley had this constant anxiety that, like, if I take my hand off the controller, you know, if I stop being on top of things for a second, I risk, you know, my downfall. Ennui could have been a good way for Riley to, like, lose interest in things that aren't, you know, hockey related. Like, maybe she went to go hang out with her Minnesota friends and they were talking about, like, you know, something that, you know, like music, for example, and she's just bored with it because that's, you know, she doesn't care. All she cares about is hockey, you know? Like, music isn't going to make me a better person, and she can start to lose that, like, creative side of her because she's too focused on working, you know?
Yeah, or, like, her dad and mom are, like, trying to talk to her about something that they used to all enjoy together, and she's, like, not interested because she's growing up, and, like, you know, they could have easily done something like that too.
Yeah, instead of it being, like, a cool person thing, you know?
And also, like, Envy, like, they could have done so much more with Envy, because, like, she was definitely, like, envious of, like, the fact that, like, you know, the high school girls are all on the team and stuff. Like, she wanted to be kind of, like, on that team, so that's, like, envy there.
Mm-hmm.
There's envy that, like, they could have included, like, a scene where it's like, oh, like, look, I think they might have, but, like, oh, look, like, my old friends are, like, you know, having a good time, not stressed out, and they're just enjoying hockey camp, and then I'm over here stressing out about hockey camp.
Yeah, like it seems like, again, it seems like so many of, like anxiety would be the center, and the other ones would be, like, results of anxiety, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you know, like, the embarrassment thing, too. Like, you know, I'm risking making myself look bad. You know, I'm taking a risk by apologizing, you know? And it's embarrassing to, you know, to put myself in that kind of vulnerable position. And, like, yeah, especially with the envy thing, like, you know, I don't know. It, you know, oh, they're so cool, you know, and that, like, having all the other emotions, like, egg anxiety on, and then having embarrassment be the one who actually says, like, no, like, I need to embarrass myself in order to grow, you know? He could be, like, the one to start that kind of chain, like the revolt against anxiety, if they wanted to do, like, this big, you know, Rage Against the Machine type thing like they did. I don't know.
It had its moments, but ultimately I feel like it just falls short of the first movie.
Yeah. And, like, yeah, the message at the end of the movie, of the end of the first movie, I think was really good. Again, this is looking back, after a couple of years. I haven't seen Inside Out 1 in forever, but like emotions are more complex. Like memories can be more than just one thing, The message at the end of this movie was, oh, my sense of self can come from many different emotions, or like, in order to grow, I need to go through, I need to experience all these different emotions. Like I can't hide things. I don't know. It just felt a little underutilized.
I can go to puberty and make me feel more emotions.
But again, maybe this was again calling back to that point earlier about, all right, what the heck is this? Oh, this is glow lichen. For all you listeners, Minecraft terminology. Yeah, maybe like we said earlier, sometimes you need to force a sequel to not hit as hard so that the third one can hit as hard, or can hit even harder, Maybe they saved the social media stuff, maybe they saved the really intense drama and social issues, because middle school drama was not extremely complex back in the day. It was kind of basic, Anxiety about all kinds of stuff was very like one-dimensional, Ideas of like love and like lasting forever, things lasting for a long time, you didn't have any context. So maybe the high school Inside Out 3 is gonna be just a banger. Maybe they're really gonna lean into these like heavier subjects, especially if they decide to give Riley like an anxiety disorder. I just again, like that workaholic archetype is so, you could do so much with that. I don't know, man.
Kind of going back to like the sequel kind of not hitting as hard and making the third one hit harder.
Yeah.
I know my opinion is very unpopular and like for this movie, but I kind of feel like that's how Spider-Verse was for me. Like the second one didn't hit as hard as the first one for me, but I think it's because the third one is going to be like absolutely amazing.
Yeah, like they held back on some of their best cards. We're sitting here saying they could have done so much more. Well, maybe they're just waiting.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like still like amazing animation, great soundtrack, like Miles developing as a character is still good. I just don't really think it was like, I didn't get that same feeling as I did the first time I watched like the first movie. Like it just didn't really have that same like, I don't know, like when movies kind of leave you with that feeling when you're done watching them, that's when like it hit for you or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just didn't get the same feeling when I finished like the second movie. I was like, all right, like that was really good, but I don't really think it was like anything that I'm like gonna be thinking about for the next couple days.
Yeah, where it's like all right, like you're like, again, maybe I'm just speaking about Inside Out 2 here, but like you've shown me what you can do, you've shown me your potential, but I'm still not convinced that like what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, I felt like Spider-Verse was pretty good. It just felt a little bit disjointed, because it was like you kind of left at like a weird spot, but the ending of that was really cool with, not necessarily with the spot, but with his uncle. I was like, dang, like how's Miles gonna get out of it this time? Tune in next time,
Yeah, that part was probably my favorite part of the movie, like the whole like introduction of like, oh shoot, like Miles is out, or his uncle's like out here in this other universe.
It was almost like the second movie ended kind of weak, and then they had like an extended teaser for the next one that was like, oh, this is gonna be good,
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. Like that definitely, that captures what I feel about, or how I feel about the movie. Like it had to end weak because it's gonna start strong in the next one, and that's fine. Like it's sometimes you just gotta be patient.
Yeah, that's it. Just again, like Inside Out, man. Like especially like just Riley as a character, man. We keep saying that, but it's so true. Like she is such a well-made character. It's like, you guys, you better do this right, or I will never forgive you. You know, especially if they want to keep this as, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's going to be like Toy Story, you know, like it's going to be, you know, we're going to follow this character all the way through.
Yeah.
So,
This is very off topic from what we've been talking about.
no,
But
you're
I
good.
saw.
I think we're done with Inside Out 2, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying we shouldn't talk about it anymore, but I think we hit all the main points.
I'm trying to find this list that I saw most recently, but there's like a most in-demand actors and actresses right now, and I was just curious, like, your thoughts on it, because honestly, a couple of the people I hadn't heard of, but I'd heard of some of them.
It's like stock trading, but with actors.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, where is it? I'm on some like website, and you know when you gotta scroll down through like miles and miles of ads, and then it's like the freaking slideshow.
Yeah, well,
that kind of thing. But okay, I found the list.
All right.
So number 10 is Zendaya, which I mean she's
course.
been in a lot like recently. Ever since like Euphoria, I feel like she kind of had this like kickoff as like, oh wow, she can actually act, you know, maturely.
And Dune, man.
And Dune. I was just gonna say Dune too. Dune and Dune 2.
Yes. Dune and Dooner.
Yeah. Dune and Dooner. And then the next movie is actually gonna be called Goon, and they're making Goon and Gooner. Yeah.
That movie, actually, if they did a Dumb and Dumber sequel about their sons called Goon and Gooner.
Yeah, and it's like just brain rot. That actually, okay, maybe we have something there. I just don't know who could play like, you know, a Jim Carrey like type, but like Gen Z Jim Carrey.
It would have to be a very striking archetype that it would have to be completely different than Jim Carrey, but it would have to be like a very strong archetype that you could, you know, you'd have to make a list of like 50 Gen Z archetypes and say this is the most like Jim Carrey, but it's also the most distinct, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, in terms of like comedians right now, like I don't really know like young enough comedians to be able to cast someone, but I'm sure there's someone out there that in the next couple of years they're going to be huge and probably take that kind of role or be able to fill in that kind of role.
Like the dopiness.
Yeah. But number 9, Timothy Chalamet, which I mean he was also in Dune and Wonka. Apparently he's like in a Bob Dylan biopic coming up, which should be interesting. Like I could see him like doing like the Bob Dylan like kind of voice, like
or the hair, funny. Just the look. I swear he's got it.
The look and the hair, he's got it. It's got that kind of like smoker type vibe that like this dude like looks like he's had like disease his whole life.
Yes, yeah. Timothy Chalamet does have a very striking image.
Yeah. All right, let's see. How do I get to the next page then? Is this? No, this is not. I like clicked on the next slide and it's like taking me to like a completely different article.
You're good. Well, a quick little tidbit about internet ads. I heard a really interesting quote from iDubbbz's podcast actually, where Dane on there said, "Whoever finds a way to monetize the internet that isn't from ads, it's gonna be huge." Now, my opinion on that is everybody's going to become an influencer, you know? So it'll still be ads, but it'll be based on artistic prowess, etc. So, yeah.
Okay, I think I found a way to see the list, but it's not, I don't think it's in order. So we had Zendaya, Timothy Chalamet, Sydney Sweeney's on there, which, I mean, I haven't really seen anything else that she was in besides Euphoria.
Oh, I never saw Euphoria.
From Euphoria, I mean, I didn't think she was that great of an actress. She's just, like, you know...
Boobs.
Conventionally attractive person, and I feel like that's why she's very good.
Did you try boobs with a Z?
I mean, it makes sense. Like, all these movie stars are always kind of like conventionally attractive people. So.
Yeah, and again, like she's been given a chance to show, you know, what she's worth. So if she blows this, then she'll regret it for the rest of her life. But if she really, decides to develop her portfolio, her acting skills, gets a good agent, then hell yeah.
Yeah, I would kind of compare her to like Ice Spice, but Ice Spice is already like kind of hitting that like fall off point. She has like a new song coming out called Fat Butt with a PH.
Oh
And
no.
I think she's just kind of like exhausted her genre and her beat. Like she kind of uses like the same beats and the same flow on every song.
Yeah.
So
Again, she's due for a new era.
Yeah, if she doesn't find a way to create a new era, I think she's gonna have a very like the baby type awakening.
Yeah.
And she'll probably come back and become like a meme in like 5 years or something. But
yeah,
it's just how it goes.
Well, I will say too, speaking of eras, Taylor Swift has got that whole waves thing down, where she's constantly innovating, constantly changing, keeping people on their toes. Props.
Let's see. Next up on the list we have Paul Mescal. I think.
Who's that guy?
I don't even know who this guy is. I gotta look him up.
Uh-oh. That ain't good.
Like, oh wait.
Not for him, I mean.
He's he looks so familiar to me. I just can't think of if I've seen anything that he was in, or if I kind of just saw him like on Instagram or something. Oh, right. He was in After Sun, and he's also gonna be in Gladiator 2 coming up.
Gladiator 2?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they're making a sequel, but.
Are you still not entertained? Or wait, is that 300?
Denzel Washington. The cast is Paul Mescal, Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal. I never heard of these other people, but it should be interesting.
Pascal's Triangle.
I think he's also on the top 10 list, but it could be wrong. No, he's not. Ben Adir Kingsley, or Kingsley Ben Adir. I think I've heard of this guy.
Sounds like a vampire.
What was he in recently? Oh, I think he was in the Bob Marley documentary.
Oh, was he Bob Marley? Or was he just in it? Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, I think so. So that guy's in the top 10.
I still didn't see that one.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. I heard like bad things about it, but I mean, everyone kind of rips on biopics when they come out.
I always like them. My mom said it was good.
Yeah, I always enjoy them.
Also, weed smoking is a big thing to include in Gen Z things now. Like Stranger Things included it a lot.
Yeah. Next up on the list is Jenna Ortega, which, I mean, I've only seen her in, like, I watched one episode of Wednesday with my parents and never really watched the rest of it. I think they did, but I didn't really care for it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, again, she can, that works. She's made herself into Wednesday. If she splices that in with other things, then she can slowly start to establish herself as more than just Wednesday. I think she set herself up for, she's got a lot of good cards. She just needs to play them right.
Yeah. She's kind of like, to me, like, I think she's even in like the newer Scream movies, but she just reminds me of like an actress from like the Scream cast.
Yeah, she was in Scream, I thought.
Yeah, I think she is in like the most recent one. But she kind of has that like Nev Campbell like type thing where I feel like she's just gonna kind of like find that niche of like horror movies, and like that's gonna be her like success.
Horror is also a growing genre, so I welcome that. I mean, again, good cards, man. You gotta play them right.
Yeah. Next up on the list, another Euphoria kind of alumni, if you want to call them that, Jacob Elordi, which to me is like really funny because there's this guy that goes to like, the same college as me, and we always called him Jacob Elordi because he kind of like looked like him. It's like this dude, I don't even know him, but it, like we see him walking past. Oh my god, it's Jacob.
Dude, all of his friends probably say that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't even know if it's really a good comparison. Like, it's probably like a really bad like doppelganger, but like you know, my close friend group, like it's fine.
Oh my gosh, dude! A phantom just knocked me into a creeper.
Uh,
All right, sorry.
Next up, no, you're good. And I know he was in that Priscilla movie recently, and I didn't see that yet. So I'll have to, see his acting outside of Euphoria and that. I think he was also in Kissing Booth 2 or something. And I watched the trailer. It looks so tacky, but it kind of makes me want to watch it because of how bad it looked.
Yeah. Can we sleep, by the way? Not to bother.
Oh, yeah.
But we got Phantoms. Lehigh Valley Phantoms.
Next up on the list is Glenn Powell, which I've been hearing a lot about recently.
Now, remind me about that guy.
So he's going to be in that Twisters movie coming up, I think. He's just a very basic looking dude. Very chiseled jawline. Ironically, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Luke Wilson, the actor.
Yes.
Not Luke Wilson, the TV.
Oh, I hate that guy, dude.
But he just he looks like a more Giga Chad Luke Wilson, if that makes sense.
Dude, Luke Wilson's already got a very strong facial structure.
Yeah, he already is a Giga Chad, but Glenn Powell, he has these really squinty soft eyes. It's he's a Rizzler mixed with a Giga Chad.
Rizzler mixed with a Giga Chad. You gotta type that into AI, see what it gives you.
But he was recently in that movie with Sydney Sweeney. It's the romantic comedy or whatever.
Oh.
And I didn't watch it, but I think people enjoyed it. So
what? Maybe I should save this question for later, but I'm gonna throw it out now. So obviously we have a good group of people. The Euphoria cast is the good group of 20 people in their early mid-20s, people our age who are starting out their acting career or starting to get big. What does that correlate to in other generations?
To me, at least, I feel it's kind of the what were they called? I want to say
Rat Pack or whatever.
The Rat Pack, or yeah.
I think
the Brat Pack.
Brat
that
Pack.
was. It was called the Brat Pack, and it was Molly Ringwald, Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the guy from Pretty in Pink. I can't think of his name.
Pretty in Pink.
But saw those guys in concert. That was actually a pretty good concert.
Yeah, they played with Squeeze, didn't they?
Yeah, alongside Squeeze, which is also another great live band.
Oh.
Great concert as well.
Dude, they are so freaking talented. Anybody listening, go listen to Squeeze. They're a British band.
Underrated. I mean, they had their hits because my girlfriend's mom, I was playing Hourglass, and she was like, "Oh, I remember this song."
Oh,
and I was
man, that's good
"How
to
do
hear.
you, isn't that weird? I never would have thought she would have known that song."
Yeah, it's out there. I think it was on the radio. That was one of the ones that did well in America.
She was singing along. She's take it to the bridge, throw it overboard. She knew lyrics and stuff, and I was like, "Wow."
See, I swear, I knew that song before I heard it in concert, but I digress.
But yeah, it's kind of similar to the Brat Pack, I guess, Euphoria. Both movies and show, Euphoria as a show, kind of trying to take steps into showcasing what being a teenager really is in that era, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because I feel not that much has changed. In Breakfast Club, you have the themes of teens having sex and getting into drugs because they have the scene where they're smoking weed.
Yeah, and then
it's the same thing.
They have problems.
Oh my god, I just died. It's the same thing as they have family problems. It's the exact same thing in Euphoria. You got the drugs, you got the family problems. The only difference is it's not as graphic. It's more graphic nowadays, but they literally talk about the exact same things.
Yeah.
And honestly, Breakfast Club is probably the best comparison of something that kind of was Euphoria before Euphoria was Euphoria.
I mean, in my hyper judgmental brain, because I grew up saying that, B104 and like the Billboard Hot 100 was like normie music and it was too mainstream for me. Like Euphoria kind of gives me that same like, primordial, baby Luke reaction where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just trying to be edgy and it's just promoting all this stuff so that I can, garner an audience of like horny people. Not that I, that's not, that's what 5% of my brain thinks about it, but like, is that justified at all or not? Like, is there a lot of substance to that?
It's, I think it's somewhat justified. Like, if you're seriously watching it for like people who are not like watching it just because it's like, to me, like I watched it because to me it was like a joke. Like I didn't really think it was like I didn't take the show seriously, and I think I enjoyed it like a lot more because I didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Like I kind of was just like laughing at parts that were supposed to be like really serious.
Yeah.
But the one thing I did like about Euphoria, and like it actually kind of like opened my eyes a little bit, is they have this character that's like the dad of the Jacob Elordi's like character named Nate, I think his name is, and his dad is like named like it starts with the C.
Clyde, Calvin.
I can't think of it.
Cecil.
Cal. I think it's Cal. And Cal is like an interesting character because he's talking to like the transgender character in the show, Jules, and like he's much older. He's married. He has like 2 sons that he's always trying to kind of be like super manly to. And,
is he like a Gen X dad or like a boomer dad?
He's like a mix between. Honestly, I feel like he's not really either. Like he's just like his own kind of thing.
Refreshing.
Because he uses like dating apps like Grindr and stuff, and is talking to this like Jules character, but you kind of learn that he just has like absolutely like no like morals, and then he's just kind of like sees life as like just like it's like I hunt what I hunt, I eat what I kill, or I forget what he says, but there's literally like this episode where he's like he walks into the living room and he's like, I've established this family and all this, but it doesn't even matter at the end of the day. Like, I'm just following like my primordial like urges to like go out and like breed with others.
Yeah,
like,
I get that. I mean, hey, that some people are very like nihilistic like that.
Yeah, and he like literally like walks out with his like penis out, and that's
man.
one of the parts of the like show that like just had me like dying laughter. And like he pisses on the floor and stuff, like
oh my god,
it's like really trying to show that he's like just doesn't care.
He's just like a weirdo.
Yeah, but then I think they follow it up either, I forget if it's the very beginning of that episode or if it's the very next episode, but they then show his like backstory of like him being in the locker room, and like he was like a football player, and like he kind of had like a crush on his best friend, this guy. Like couldn't say anything about it because like his best friend was straight, and they both had girlfriends at the time.
Oh,
but
plot twist.
Yeah, and
Big
then
twist.
I think they go to like this bar or something, and they're like dancing around, and he finally gets to be his true self because like he's I think he comes out to his friend or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what happens after that, but like that episode like really was like kind of emotional, and like something that like I've never really like seen like a like I guess like a gay relationship represented like with that much like emotional depth, and like kind of like a guy like who is trying so hard to appear straight to the whole world, and he actually has like those feelings inside. Like they don't really talk about that in like a lot of shows. Like it's either like I feel like a character is gay or they're not gay, and like they don't really go into that depth like that of like what kind of made them decide on like, okay, I actually like realized that he's gay or whatever.
Yeah, well there was like a whole now I don't know if this is what they were trying to hit on, but there was like this whole idea of like, oh back in like the 80s and stuff and like the 90s, you know, there were these guys who were like secretly gay, and they would get into like marriages and stuff, and then they would sneak out and go to like bathhouses or whatever you want to call them, or like, you know, they go to like gay bars or like clubs or things where they could actually, you know, do what they truly wanted to do instead of living this fake life. And there was like a South Park, they made a joke out of it, where like Butters' dad was like secretly gay, and you know, it was like this big thing where, you know, Butters like accidentally finds out, and then his mom like starts going crazy or whatever because her whole life is like falling apart. Was that like the kind of vibe they were trying to hit, or was it just kind of like trying to tell its own story?
They don't really go into like the mom. It's kind of like how that impacts the son then, and like he's like, oh my god, like my dad's like so weird, and like, you know, that kind of thing, like how it like impacts the son's like status at school, I guess, because now everyone knows that his dad's like kind of a creep, and you know, it's just everything's kind of falling apart for that guy because he had so much status, like as like, oh, it's Nate Jacobs, like the most like popular, attractive football player guy.
Yeah.
And then now
he's the laughing stock of the school.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I think for like the character of like Cal, like it was like such a good episode, and it was like the one episode that I truly like could respect Euphoria for, I guess. But okay, there's other parts of Euphoria that I like liked and respected, but that was just the one episode that I was like, I really actually like what they did with this character. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Could you see, like, did they have different writers for every episode? Like, could you see if whoever wrote that like did any other movies or anything, or like did any other episodes of shows?
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out, because with shows it's always normally a different director per episode, or like a different writer, or there's normally like one writer who writes all of it, but then each episode kind of has a different director. Like there's a showrunner and then there's director episodes.
Yeah.
So I definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I feel like whenever you do that, you're like, oh wow, this is like a really well made episode, and then you go and it's like, oh my gosh, this person also wrote my favorite episode of Breaking Bad or whatever, you know?
Yeah, and they use like the song, what is it? It's the one like NXS song.
Oh, I only know.
I was standing and you were there. That song, I can't remember.
Oh,
Never Tear Us Apart. That's
never.
They used that song, and it's like it's such a good like song for that episode, because he goes back to the gay bar like later on, and it's like just him like being old, and he's like, he gets kicked out because he's like absolutely like, wasted, and he's like kind of like harassing the patrons in a way.
Yeah.
But like it just shows that, and then that's when he goes back home and pisses on the floor and all that. Like,
so he's just like going like, a little. He's going crazy, but it's because he's being like pushed into it.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. Maybe I like look into this episode and like respect it too much for like what it is, because other people probably think it's just stupid, but like I don't know, I just like really like that episode.
Well, again, it's like, you know, if it was a chance for a writer to shine, they could have been like, oh, you know, this show, you know, is just meant for young kids to just watch and, you know, get all, you know, crazy over and to like watch all this hedonism and stuff, but now's my chance to really make this episode impactful or something. You never know like what the intent was. Yeah.
And it definitely like brings like sexuality in a way that it's not like forcing it onto you. Like it's really trying to like get you to like understand it from like the roots. Like I don't know, like I just feel like that's like such a better way to bring up sexuality in a show than to be like, this character's just gay. Like they just like they explain it and they kind of like develop it, and like not that everyone needs to have an explanation, but for this character it like fit perfectly, like because, you know, we didn't really know why he was the way he was, and they just kind of like gave it like meaning. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, so, you know, you have all these like, you know, why is the character the way he is? Oh, it's because he's gay. And it's like, oh, that's why. And then they just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, yeah, and it's like, he's not just gay, but like his best friend, like, is no longer. I forget if the best friend passes away. I can't remember if the best friend like dies like a car accident or something.
Died in a
And
car accident.
yeah, it's like something like that, but I don't know. It just like that episode really struck a chord with me. I was like, all right, I really actually respect this like episode of Euphoria.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, good writing, and it's like, I don't know, I I mean, the fact that it stuck with you though, it's just like, there's something there, somebody put a little extra special sauce,
Yeah, and rest in peace to Angus Cloud. He was like the kind of druggy character in the show, but had like probably like the most morals out of anyone in the show.
Yeah,
That was his whole role. He not always involved in the best stuff, but he always was looking out and had the best interest for all the characters, which it is sad that, the actor himself actually passed away from, I think, an overdose. So,
oh man,
yeah, it's
that's the
pretty
worst.
sad. But I don't even know if they, like, I think that they're gonna continue the show, but it's just gonna really, like, be hard to not have his character, because he was, like, one of two characters, I would say, that had like good intents and like actually like looked out for others.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they, they could kind of immortalize him in the character, you know, they could.
Yeah, they could push him. Like, I mean, obviously, like they would have to get permission from his family, but I guess if they have the character himself kind of overdose or something.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great way to kind of mix together. That's not to like take advantage of him, but to utilize just the gravity of how that affected all the people on set and the family and stuff, and like, because again, he probably wasn't a jerk in real life. I mean, giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, no, he's probably a very nice guy and just, was led down the wrong path and eventually got too far and lost his life. But yeah,
Yeah, it's a shame.
uh, now to go to like a little bit lighter of a topic.
All right, everybody, we're gonna end on that. No.
Yeah, the last, or I mean, not the last. The next person on the list is Florence Pugh, which I've seen like a couple movies with her now. She was in Oppenheimer recently.
Yeah.
I think that's like her most recent movie, which I thought she was pretty good in that.
Yeah, she was his wife or his
I
lady.
think yeah, she was like the lady that he knew in college.
Oh, and she was naked on him in the thing.
Yeah, that was that part was a little weird, but
I thought it was
think
unnecessary.
no, it was definitely unnecessary. But I thought her character itself was good.
Yeah.
And I also saw her recently in Midsummer, which if you haven't seen that one, you gotta watch that one.
My brother always says it's really good. And I think my dad watched it too.
Oh, and she was also in like Don't Worry, Darling recently, which that was that Harry Styles in her movie. I liked her character in that too. She's like, I don't know, she's just kind of like a badass. Like it was like a cool character for her to play.
Gotta appreciate that.
And she was also in Puss in Boots: Last Wish, so she's definitely been popping off recently.
Dang, dude.
In a lot of movies that I would consider like good movies.
And where's she on the list? What number?
I assuming that this is like in the right order, I think she's let's see, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2. I think she's number 2.
Dang.
If this is like in the order, or I don't know though, because there's a bunch of names in front of her. I think she's probably like around number 4, but probably because she's already kind of been taking that, taking that leap. So maybe they're like trying to showcase other people as in demand.
Yeah. So let's see. Guesses for number 1. Do you already know?
Yeah, I already know the. Well, okay. There's like 2 names that are, people that are like being pushed as like the top people.
Yeah.
I already know them, but I'll let you kind of take a guess.
I
There's I'll give you a hint though. Like it's one male, one female.
Okay, one male, one female. I'll say, Timothy Chalamet and Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, you got Anya Taylor-Joy. She is, I think, if this list is like, or I mean, if this is like in the order of the list, it seems like she's number one. So.
All right, and then one male. I mean, Cillian Murphy has a little time to cool off before his next big role, I think. Same with Timothy Chalamet. He's just been knocking him out of the park, man. Like, he needs to take like a B movie, you know.
He could be in like, I don't know. He could definitely be in like, the next Stranger Things season. I feel like.
Oh yeah, he'd be like a good.
Randomly, like he just looks like someone who would be in it.
He almost looks like Vecna.
Yeah.
Another male. So I didn't get the male right. I think. Yeah. I mean, Timothy Chalamet is a little too obvious.
And he was already on the list. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. Come on, Egwa. Let's see. Male actors. I don't know. What movies have I seen lately? Oh, Austin Butler. Duh.
Yep, it's him.
I was gonna say him earlier.
Yeah. Which I mean, it's interesting for me because I've yet to even watch anything that he was in, but apparently, like, I didn't know this, but he was like a Disney Channel actor back in the day.
I didn't know that.
And yeah, Olivia was filling me in on that, and we actually were watching this trailer because I told Olivia, I was like, oh my god, like this movie used to freak me out as a kid. It was like some aliens in our attic movie.
Yeah, dude, I literally was afraid to go in my attic.
Yeah, I was freaked out by that movie. Like the aliens look so creepy. Yeah. And then we watched the trailer, and I was like, oh, this looks so stupid and goofy.
Yeah.
But Austin Butler's in that movie, and I was like, what?
Dude, now I gotta go rewatch it.
He's like, he kind of looks like Napoleon Dynamite in that. Like, it's just like, I'll try to like, I'll send it because it's really funny.
Yeah, he's another just conventionally attractive dude.
Yeah, like he just kind of like, you know, struck a chord with, I guess the younger generation.
He struck a chord, with Elvis. Because Elvis plays the guitar and some other things.
Yeah, and he also got in a drunk driving accident, struck an accord.
So. Oh, there we go.
No, he didn't actually do that.
Oh my gosh, dude, what the heck?
Yeah, he looks like a dork.
Oh my gosh, that doesn't even look like him, dude. He looks like he could play Gooner in Goon and Gooner.
That is Goon and Gooner right there, that picture I sent.
Dude, I swear.
Maybe we have our dream cast now. We have our number one actor.
Young Austin Butler.
Yeah.
not current day Austin Butler. Just we have to go back in time to the first Thanksgiving.
Young Austin Butler could play like anxiety in the real life Inside Out.
Gosh, eat as many as they freaking want to.
Oh my god, he looks like bug-eyed, like, it's just weird.
Alright, I gotta pull this up for the people on the pod. I'm looking this up.
Like, right. Why does he gotta look like the alien from Aliens in Our Attic, or Aliens in the Attic?
Aliens in the Attic, Austin Butler. Okay, some of these he looks better in. Some of these...
it's just that one picture.
No, dude, why did they use that as, like, the like... Oh my gosh, why did they use that as the box art, man? They violated him. How do I... Could I... Oh, jeez, this is going to be bad. I don't want to show all my bookmarks and stuff, but I might just say screw it and do it. Let's see. Yeah, everybody. What? Yeah, I don't think I have anything. Oh, hold on. I got to get rid of this bookmark. This. Oh, I'm getting killed in Minecraft. Get out of my way, zombie.
You're all run over. Are you right?
No, I got it. Alright, here is young Austin Butler, everybody. He does look like Napoleon. This is Goon and Gooner right here.
I'm looking at like some of the more recent pictures, and he almost does look like a John Heater, like genotype. And like in this one picture, he really looks like Justin Bieber for some reason.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if this is Justin Bieber.
That definitely was the Bieber hair. Both of them had it. Dude, I had the Bieber cut for a while. And when I got a haircut, my aunt said that I got de-Bieberized.
I think that like Tom Holland kind of like, I mean, he has Spider-Man, but I feel like he's not gonna like, he's not gonna latch on as much as like all these other actors did.
He's not having the most graceful transition to being a man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he still just kind of looks like a child.
Yeah, unfortunately. But again, he could be like a grown-up Peter Parker.
Yeah.
His long hair arc is interesting.
Yeah. He's like another guy who looks like he could like easily be like a random side character on like Stranger Things.
Yeah. Or he looks like his mouth is full of like peanuts or like half a hamburger.
He'd be in like a new like Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Who would he play? Roderick? Nah, he's too nice.
Nah, he's too nice to be the Roderick, but like I don't know, he just looks like he'd be like a new character named like
Churdley.
He'd be like Aiden or something.
Aiden.
Yeah.
Or like Jonathan with no H.
Yeah. Just the Jon.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I glued Odie's head to the table.
And go on back to Garfield. Like this is that's a callback to like maybe an hour ago.
Dude, this podcast has been going for 2 hours and 37 minutes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But
props
Garfield,
to whoever's listening this far, by the way. Sorry. Continue.
No, you're good. Garfield, like, I don't know. They just didn't have his like same like grumpiness to him. Like he was too like wholesome and like happy.
He was a little too whiny. Well, nah.
He was like lazy and whiny, but like they didn't capture that like grumpiness and that like sour old man like humor.
Yeah.
And I kind of missed that. Like I was expecting more of that kind of thing. Like I glued his head to the like that kind of thing. Like that's funny to me because it's just like ridiculous and like so like grouchy sounding. But like I don't.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt was just like, haha, like I'm Garfield. I eat lasagna.
Yeah, I'm getting a little tired of hearing Chris Pratt go whoa, whoa whenever he's like flying across the screen. You know what I'm saying?
Like every movie he's in.
Yeah. Mario like flying, like the Mario 3D model isn't actually moving. It's just the background that's like flashing, and then Mario's mouth is like wiggling in the wind with like a spit effect.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Freaking Chris Pratt.
Christopher.
I wonder if he's like top 10, like in demand of like already established actors.
Nah. I wouldn't even put him top 25. I think people are a little bit tired of him after Marvel and after the past 2 animated movies he's done.
Funny, because I think he's apparently like the person who has like the most Lego figures of different kinds like made after him or whatever. So he has the Jurassic World guy. He's got Star-Lord. Oh my God, who else does he have? I gotta look it up now. Oh, he's got Emmett.
Oh yeah.
Completely forgot.
He lucked out on that, man. Not lucked out, but I mean
that was a good role for him.
It was out of all his animated roles, I think that one was perfect, and it's the one where I always forget it was him.
Michael Keaton actually has 3 too.
Oh, nice.
He has Batman, Beetlejuice, and Vulture.
Okay, does he have 3 or does he have 2?
Tara Strong, who,
oh yeah,
voice actor legend, has 3 figures as well. Raven, Bubbles from
Bubbles has a figure?
Powerpuff Girls, and Harley Quinn.
Of course, Harley.
Samuel L. Jackson has Mace Windu, Nick Fury, and Ray Arnold. I don't know who Ray Arnold is. But...
Snakes on a plane. No, I have no idea.
Oh,
isn't there like a Pulp Fiction like universes set or something?
Yeah, there probably is. I think that's actually what it is. Jon Favreau has 3.
What dude from Iron Man? Happy.
Prey Vizsla, Rio Durant, Paz Vizsla. I don't know.
Are those Star Wars characters?
I have no idea.
Vizsla sounds like a Star Wars name.
Oh, Samuel L. Jackson has 4 actually.
Oh.
He's got
no.
Frozone as well.
Ah, that's cool.
Because they did Incredibles.
Yes. Was it an incredible? Was it an incredible Lego set?
I don't know, man.
Sorry. Continue.
I didn't see it, but speaking of Lego sets, recently did the one Animal Crossing set. I have to say, like, the headpieces for like the minifigures was actually like really like detailed and, you know, really well done, which is like good because, you know, Lego always charges like crazy amounts for their sets, but when you actually get that like good quality like minifigure, it's like really refreshing.
Refreshing.
Just like a cold brisk on a hot summer day.
I'm thirsty. Refreshing.
But yeah, the set itself like kind of had some certain things that I wasn't like exactly like thrilled about. Like they have like this weird like I don't even, how do you even describe Legos audio format? Like, it's
dude, this is the challenge. This is where you work your description chops.
There's like a piece that kind of has like a little bar on it, and then it's like a 1x1 like Lego like cell dot, whatever you want to call it, and it's got like the little like hook on it, and you put that hook onto the bar.
I'm but like kind of following.
And imagine like the bar piece as having like it's like 2x1, and then it has the bar on the end. So you put that 2x1 bar onto like the hook.
I think I can imagine what you're saying.
But then on the 2x1 hook, or I mean the 2x1 bar, you put like a longer, like maybe 4x1 piece, and it's like flat, and that makes like half of the roof, so that you can make that like kind of triangular shape of the roof.
Like the shingles?
No, like kind of like the roof like framing, I guess.
Okay.
Like the triangle of the roof of the house.
Yeah, I got you.
But my complaint was that the two like sides to the triangle, they don't perfectly like meet in the center. There's like a space in between.
I hate that.
And it kind of like hovers over this like other piece that they have you place down. And I just wish they could have found like a better way to do it. But I mean, it's still a cool set. It's got all these different like interactive pieces that like really make it feel like more like alive, and like I could see like kids like playing with the set because it has so many like different parts that you can build, and like they kind of like want you to design the house in like any way that you want on the inside. Yeah. So that's kind of cool because it's very like Animal Crossing-esque.
Yeah. That is cool.
But also when you're building, you randomly like throw in like a little coin like piece inside of the tree, because like, you know, when you shake the trees in Animal Crossing, you get like, so it's like cool that they have like little things like Easter eggs like that.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's like back to that idea of like density, you know? Like you can get value in a lot of different ways, but density is one way to do it, you know? Put all kinds of little attention to detail, you know, show that you care, give people interesting things to mess around with, you know. If it's like mini games, you know, if you can have a Lego set that has like 15 mini games built into it, like holy crap, man. You know, that's you know, not only do you get to build the set, not only do you get to display the set, not only do you get to play with the set, but you get like all this extra stuff to mess around with it, you know.
Reminds me of like New Super Mario Bros. For the DS. They had that like battle mode, and then there's also like that gambling Luigi mode, and like I don't know, there's music. Like so much like that you could play, like, and then you also had like the normal like story mode, and then they also had like bonus levels that were like secret that you can unlock. Like there's so much content and depth, and like I don't know, it's just you know, I keep saying refreshing, I gotta stop saying.
Nah, I mean, it is what it is, man.
it is refreshing when something has that much depth and playability.
That much care. Somebody had to
yeah.
sit there, plan that out. Oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? You know, we don't have to, but we're gonna anyway.
Yeah. And I've been playing like Stardew Valley, another game that so much depth and care put it into it, and it was just like one dude who did it all, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's art, man.
Like, I don't know, that game is addicting for a multitude of reasons, but it's because of all the time and care that was put into it, so it made it worth it for the developer.
Yeah, I gotta do another run through that game at some point.
And I think he's like a new game coming out, which looks really cool, called The Haunted Chocolatier.
Yes, I've been on that game for a long time, I swear.
Yeah, I really want to play that, like, when that comes out. That looks really cool.
Yeah, it's like Stardew Valley, but Chocolate Factory.
And I already love, like, the whole, like, Wonka Chocolate Factory type thing, so...
Yeah, it's like perfect time for that to come out.
Yeah. And like there's something about like the style, like the art style and the music of Stardew Valley. It just hits, like, it's so good.
Oh yeah, man. Especially like the spring and summertime music. I think I mentioned that before, but not on this podcast, but maybe like this week or something. Just that, you know, just that spring summertime music. It's just, it captures such a feeling, like you're in that world, man.
Be a future like podcast discussion, like talking about like what songs we think fit like each season the best or something like that.
Yeah, or just like a whole dedicated Stardew Valley one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'm gonna call it here.
Yeah.
Just because it's getting late and I gotta get up for work. Because I unfortunately work. You're a slave. You're a brick in the wall.
They live. You put the glasses on, you see your workplace, and it's like... I don't even know. I'm trying to think of something.
Yeah. Nah, everybody at my work's awesome. I lucked out with this internship.
It's good.
So, you know, it's funny because people will, like, leave comments on my videos and stuff, and they're like, you know, making things efficient with AI, you know, it only benefits the shareholders and the executives. And it's like, bro, like, at this job, like, they are happy if I find a way to cut the effort I put in, like, down, you know, and and they expect me to take, like, you know, not expect me, but, like, you know, if I cut the effort I put into something from 2 hours down to an hour and a half, you know, I don't think anybody would care if I took that extra half hour, especially if I'm an intern waiting around for people to tell me what to do, you know. Again, not saying that it's justification to slack off, but, you know, not every company is trying to work you to death. And to be completely honest, a lot of companies require less effort and work than freelance stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it's like YouTube or real estate or marketing or affiliate marketing, whatever you want to do. It's just, you know, the people who criticize the 9 to 5 often have never worked one, or, you know, maybe that's just my closed-minded view. If anybody's listening, please give your thoughts, because I'd like to hear, you know, somebody else's opinion on this kind of stuff out in the ether. But yeah, I think that just about does it. So thank you all for tuning into this extra long episode of the Telecast, episode 7. 7 is a lucky number. That's your lucky number. So yeah, go out and find a bunch of 7s. Go to the casino.
Go watch the movie 7.
Yes.
Never seen it, but just know it's out there, so go watch it.
I saw it a while ago, and it was I remember it being good, but I don't remember a whole lot else about it. I'm gonna knock the zombie off a bridge. Get out of here, zombie. Oh, I missed. Whatever. Yeah, that is about it. So, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode, whenever that comes out, whatever it's about. It'll be just as interesting, wacky, intellectual, boring, and Minecrafty as this one. Probably not Minecraft next time, but maybe. Do you have any final words, Jacob?
Nah, I don't think I do today.
All right. Well, actually, I do have some final words. We did a podcast, me, Jacob, and our other friend Nick, and not Anthony. I don't think he was part of that. We did another podcast where we talked about Barbie and Oppenheimer, like right after we saw it. So that is a good one to follow this one up on. And yeah, I don't know. Leave any suggestions, anything in the comments. You know, comments are the greatest source of analytics. You know, because you can look at graphs, you can look at charts, you can make assumptions, but the comments are the people's voice. You know, this is a democratic channel. The only way I can get better is by, oh my gosh, stop trampling my crops, you freaking ass. I don't know, whatever. You could probably understand, or you could probably assume what I'm going to say, so see you in the next one. Peace.